All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our second regular council meeting in April. Today's April 15th, 6 p.m. We're here live at City Hall and also on Zoom for those of you participating from home or your vacation in Barbados. Sorry, or wherever. I know everybody wants to tune in from another country when you know what's going on in the city. So we're going to go ahead and start off tonight with an invocation. I'll go ahead and give that since I didn't ask anybody, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So please join us. Dear Father, we thank you for bringing us together today. And thank you so much for all the participation from our commissions, from our citizens who are joining us tonight, those who are joining us online, and those who continue to reach out and share their knowledge and their opinions. It is our duty to listen and process and make the best decision we can for the city. I also want to say thank you for wrapping your arms around this community, and this council and our staff. There's been a lot of things going on personally for a lot of us. And I just want to thank you for helping to get all of us through this and so that we can concentrate on what's great for our community. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll go ahead and start with roll call. Councilmember Van Orman. Here. Councilmember Kurtz. Present. Councilmember Cargill, American Pro Tem Cargill.
Present.
Councilmember Dunn.
Happy to be here.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Present.
All right, I'm not logged in yet. I know Councilmember Spencer was joining us online. Is he on?
Present.
Thank you. I can't see you yet, but now I can. And we heard anything from Councilmember Ball?
We have not.
Okay, so may we have a motion to excuse Councilmember Ball?
Motion to excuse Councilmember Ball.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a couple seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. All right, we are up to agenda approval. Do we have any requested amendments before we move to that? Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, one requested amendment, adding a workshop discussion to, let's see, I guess we could go 9D on farmers market participation.
Okay, I know that had been a request in just before we go to discussion or vote, and the reason we didn't put, Mark and I talked about it, didn't put it on for tonight was due to, if we can let the record reflect that Councilmember Ball has joined the meeting, just due to time for tonight, but that's up to you guys to decide. Do we have a second to add farmers market participation as a fourth workshop for tonight?
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Van Orman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
And is that just one?
I'll do an A.
Okay, and Councilmember Spencer's, were you a nay?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so motion passes now 5-2. All right. Okay, any other requested amendments before we approve the agenda? Go ahead, Councilmember Ball.
I wanted to move.
Can you get closer to your mic?
Oh,
please?
sorry. Is it on?
Yes.
I wanted to move the B10B into the general agenda.
So you're making a motion to move 10B to general business action items?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of moving general business consent agenda item B, which is the vouchers, to general business action item? Well, if that's okay with everybody, we'll put that at A to get that through first. Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Any other requests? All right,
See none, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 7-0. All right, moving right along. We are up to citizen comments. So just a reminder for those of you in chambers, if you would like to make a citizen comment, we have these yellow half sheets by the door over there. If you could please fill one out and get it to our new city clerk at the end of the table. She'll take care of it and get you logged in, and then it'll come around to me. And if you're online, if you'd like to make a comment, please send a note in the meeting chat to our meeting host, and he'll let me know. As a reminder, comments are limited to 3 minutes. Comments only. This is not a back and forth with the council. If we need to follow up, we will make sure we have your contact information. We are here to listen. And we just ask that comments remain respectful. And we will start off with our one single commenter today so far, Tom Solberg. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Neighbors, staff, and electeds, Tom Solberg, Liberty Lake River District, past city council member, past member of all but the community engagement commissions, and current planning commission member. We're changing the appointment and confirmation process for commissions, apparently. Why? Where have the apparent issues in the process been? The following is on the record from the last few city council members, when one member said, "The city council knows nothing about its applicants. The city council needs all the information that the mayor has from their interview. The current process has caused turmoil, cost, a lot of city time, effort, and money. We need completers, not competitors. And it is ludicrous to require candidates to appear in person before the city council." Others said, "We need to take the process more seriously, not just rubber stamp. And that the mayor is elected to make executive appointments. The city council can accept or reject them." In my experience, this city council, by its own conduct, has created this perceived problem, asking citizens to apply to what was a simple process, but which now is more confusing. It is truly ludicrous and will not encourage, but rather will deter people from subjecting themselves to personal humiliation. As a result, I suggest we, one, keep the process as it is. And two, as was mentioned by the city council members, do your due diligence by reading the applications before the meeting. Take your responsibility more seriously to ask job-related questions. And three, and I think this one's a key for everybody and very doable, is to move the confirmation discussion to the beginning of, or at least earlier into the meeting. I believe it is true that it is the responsibility of every citizen to question authority in their government. Our citizens, the last I looked, which was today, are at the top of our organizational chart. This city council needs to remember their responsibilities and, by example, encourage people to be a part of, not apart from, their city governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other comments here in chambers, or is there anybody waiting in line online? Nope. Okay, all right, just remember there will be another opportunity for general citizen comments at the end of the meeting. There will also be opportunities during the second read ordinance and during resolutions specific for those items when we get to them. Okay, we are up to announcements, proclamations, and special presentations. We are starting off with a program profile about library circulation. Welcome, Director Jandy.
Good evening, Council. I'm going to be talking to you guys tonight about the first library program, which is library circulation. In the 2025 budget, the library has 3 programs, and this is the first one that we're going to be talking about tonight, library circulation. It's what it sounds like. It's our physical and digital circulation of materials. It also includes our Library of Things collection. It also includes the maintenance of our library collection. So that is the maintenance that myself and Michaela do as librarians, which is ordering, weeding, and surveying the collection. It also includes the assistance that we give to the public via reader's advisory, reference questions, and all of the technology assistance that the library does. This includes things from printing to helping people set up their Kindle, to making a resume, helping someone set up their email. Last month, we even helped someone put their self-published book on Amazon for people to buy. So all the myriad of questions and assistance that we do at the library. The resources that this expends, as far as we have 7.6 full-time equivalent people that assist us with this. It costs $432,000 in personnel, and then $96,000 in non-personnel, which is primarily our collection budget and database budget. So total, the program costs $528,000 a year. The program attributes include our demand for these services are increasing. We've seen that year over year as our number of library cards have increased and our number of checkouts have increased at the library, as well as our demand for tech assistance. This program is mandated via ordinance in 2003 when we established the library. The majority of the population is benefiting from this free service. We do get a small cost recovery from lost or damaged materials, but we do not charge fines at the library anymore for overdue materials. The city is the sole provider of this service here in Liberty Lake. Next slide, Evan. Okay, so our strategic plan alignment, we have a minor contribution to public safety and well-being. Our strongest connection is through quality of life and connectedness. We get great reviews on the library. If you remember from the city survey, question 21 talks about how satisfied people are with the services at the library, and we scored extremely high with that. We also contribute to economic vibrancy and opportunity, as well as planned growth and infrastructure. We anticipate this section to grow as our city and our community grows year over year. Our strategic plan alignment is scored as less aligned. Okay, next slide, Evan, we'll go over the results. The result is our patron access to educational resources trend upward year over year. We measure this through the physical number of checkouts, our digital number of checkouts, Library of Things checkouts, as well as the active library card holders. If you guys remember, over the last year, we've maintained over 1,000 more library cards than we've seen in many, many years. So our usage at the library is increasing year over year. Finally, last slide. Residents and patrons feel satisfied with the quality of the library. We are determining this through the communication satisfaction survey, question 21, and we're planning this year to implement once a year a library satisfaction survey that we give to our patrons. Once a year, we're thinking of during the summer in July, because that's our busiest time of year at the library. So any questions or comments on this program?
Let me check in here online, make sure. I don't, Councilmember Spencer, I don't know if I saw you. Okay, thanks. I'm getting to this. All right,
Perfect.
great. Nobody has any questions? We'll move on.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jandy.
Thank you, Jenny.
Okay, next up, we have the Arbor Day proclamation. We are a tree city, and to maintain this, we participate in the Arbor Day, and we will be planting a tree. Is it this Friday? Or next Friday?
25th.
Two Fridays from now, over by the ball field. So we'll have Rochelle go ahead and start with the proclamation reading.
Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million of trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can be a solution for combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal.
So at this point, we will pause and ask for a motion and second in support of this proclamation.
Move to support the proclamation.
And a motion and a second. All those in favor of supporting the Arbor Day proclamation, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Just had to ask that. All right, motion passes 7-0. Now therefore, I, Chris Kaminskis, Mayor of the City of Liberty Lake, do hereby proclaim, oh, we're missing a date. Today, what's the date for it? April 15th. Sorry, it's not written in. Do hereby proclaim April 15th as Arbor Day in the city of Liberty Lake. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Is there anybody here from the Arbor Day people? Okay, all right, we'll get them a signed copy. Okay, thanks, everybody. Appreciate that. All right, we are quickly moving into reports and inquiries. Are there any reports from the city council over the last couple weeks? Councilmember Dunn.
STA's CEO search task force met again today and reviewed results provided by a consulting group regarding candidates in a executive session. The public vote was made to interview 4 candidates and to provide eventually a recommendation to the board regarding that.
All right. Thanks for your continued participation in that. Do we have any other council reports? Okay, moving right along tonight. Mayor's report, mine's going back a little bit. Again, I apologize for missing last week's meeting, family issues that continue. Just highlights of meetings that I participated in since the last meeting. We had the steering committee of elected officials. That's regarding the Growth Management Act. Many commission interviews. You already saw some of that last meeting. The SRTC board meeting. I also had a separate call with Lois Ballenbach, the executive director, as incoming chair for next year. She's getting a jump on it to see if there's anything that we as a city or me personally or staff would like to see. Not necessarily different, but in addition from SRTC. And, my discussion with her was, look, you guys are the experts and, I'm not going to come in and tell you how to do things, but there might be some things that the council wants to talk about that maybe we think we might want to ask SRTC to look at, not just for us, but as a region as a whole. And so I'll be following up with meetings with Mark, obviously, and the staff and you guys as well later on in the year to see if there's any pet projects that we want to try to implement. We had the suicide awareness plate decal ceremony. This is the 988 suicide awareness decals that are being put on the vehicles. It was pretty funny because Deputy Chief and Chief did a great job of rounding up several different versions of our cars, and I think we had 5 of them lined up at the PD. And we were getting ready to do the little ceremony and put the decals on, and they got a hot call for a DV call, and all of them had to take off. So luckily, we were able to find a couple cars in the back parking lot to put some stickers on, and it worked out really good. But just to note that Liberty Lake is the only entity right now on this side of the state who is supporting this. They were having difficulty with some of our other municipalities in the county as well. So it's really, really an honor for us to be kind of on the forefront of supporting this. And I know our community is hugely supportive of our veterans around here, and I'd like to continue to see that. Valley Chamber Board meeting was a couple weeks ago, and Adorkable Flowers and Gifts had their 3rd ribbon cutting. If you guys didn't know that, so their first location was over by Lorraine Fine Jewelry, over across from Home Depot. Then she moved over in the Safeway area for several years, and she has since left that location and is operating just up the street. If you don't know where Snow Eater Brewery is, you can easily find that. But she's doing a fresh flower market on Fridays and Saturdays, and she still does her bouquets and whatnot throughout the year. So we think this was the first time business has actually had a 3rd ribbon cutting with the Valley Chamber. So it was pretty exciting. It was a huge turnout, which is a testament to the work that Andrea does at Adorkable. And then just coming up, we've got Visit Spokane Board of Directors, some more steering committee, and just the usual alphabet soup of boards and commissions that I attend. So that's plenty for me tonight. City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. As we transition into going through some of the events and the reminders about them, I'll take the opportunity to say, if you haven't filed your taxes, you still have a couple of hours to get that in. And as we look at the events that we have coming over the next several weeks, I'll point your attention starting out to the City Academy. This is our 4th iteration of the Academy. It starts on April the 24th, which is a week from this Thursday. And this is one of those things that it's 8 sessions. You'll get to spend one of those with Chief Soto, who's going to make a presentation in a few minutes out at Fire Station 3. and with some other partners that we have, and also with some city leaders to learn about what happens inside of the city, how we make decisions, how we allocate resources, those kinds of things. But I want to invite, make a particular invitation to those who may have questions about property taxes on the session on April 24th, which is going to be over at, I'm sorry, it's going to be here in the chamber. We're going to try to demystify property taxes for you. So if you have an interest in that, statements came out recently. So if you want to talk more about how all of that happens, come out and join us at the first session of the City Academy, and then think about sticking around for the other 7 sessions. We talked about this earlier, but the Arbor Day tree planting is going to be out at the Liberty Lake Ball Fields on Friday, April 25th. Come join us if you'd like to see a tree planted for Arbor Day. And then the following day out at Town Square Park is our annual Clean, Green, and Bulky Waste Cleanup. If you are a subscriber to services with WM, you will receive a ticket in the mail that kind of details where to go, what time to be there, what you can bring, what you shouldn't bring. And so if you have bulk items that you are looking to get rid of, now is the time to bring those out to, as long as they are accepted items, out to Town Square on Saturday, April the 26th. The final day following that, the next day, Sunday, April 27th, is the final day of the regular legislative session for 2025. As you all remember, we started out by following 75-ish bills that were directly connected to our legislative priorities that council adopted. We're down to now tracking 9 of those because either they have passed and the governor has signed, or they are dead on arrival. The budget bills are still being debated and negotiated. And so we'll give you an update after the 27th as to what passed and how that might impact certain operations in the city. Another reminder of the Second Harvest Food Drive that goes through April 30th. There is a collection point at the Liberty Lake Library. And so if you would like to contribute that, bring out your non-perishable to the library at any time, and you'll find the moving down to Monday, May 12th. This is something that you may have already received from AWC, an email from Deanna Dawson. There is a Collaborative Elected Leaders Institute cohort starting in June of this year. I bring this up now because the deadline to register for this is Monday, May 12th. If you would like to register for this cohort, let myself or Rochelle know, and we will get you registered. Those are always interesting opportunities to network and learn cool new things.
So that's the program that Annie and I were part of, the inaugural class, along with Mayor Terry Cooper from Medical Lake and Jennifer's last name. Morton, sorry. Oh, sorry, Jennifer, from Airway Heights Council. So it actually requires a team submittal. So if anybody here is, interested in getting 4 of you guys together, or a couple people from here and another city around, get together and get the application in together. There is a Q&A session coming up.
So it sounds like you heartily recommend.
I love it.
I mean,
Oh, yeah,
somebody to enter the new cohort.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it was really, really worth it. It was a lot of time because, we were traveled 2 or 3 times for a couple days, and there were, a couple days in a row where we were online for the session for about 3-4 hours at a time, but it was really well worth it, especially getting to know elected officials in the other communities around Washington and strategizing together and learning how to run effective meetings and learning how to get good input from the public.
Right. So if you're interested, let us know. And then finally, for the events, we're at the point of the year where we are getting ready to start the Liberty Lake Farmers Market again on Saturday, May 17th, out at Town Square. And so that will run through mid-October, weather permitting. But these things, like the seasons, continue to roll. So we're looking forward to that starting up again. Any questions about those events before we move on to the other items on the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
What time on Friday for tree planting?
Jen says noon. Noon at the ball fields. Any other questions?
Oh, I have one.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Paul.
Well, mainly for you. So this Collaborative Elected Leaders Institute, I did read the email from AWC. I mean, how much time do you think total, including travel, this involves?
So we had two in-person days here in Spokane, 2 in Everett, 2 in Kennewick, I think is where we were. And then 2 or 3 part day sessions online. And then there was, a little bit of outside work. But it was a lot, but it was worth it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on. We've got a couple of items that fit under employee recognition. And the first one, we've, over the last several meetings, introduced you to some new city employees. We have another one that has joined us in April that I want to bring to your attention this evening. And Ben, if you want to work your way up here and bring Cody with you. Cody Hosier is a new engineering technician that has joined our team. And so we want to introduce you to Cody. Ben?
So I'm Cody's hype man. So Cody's our new engineering tech within the Public Works Department. He comes to us highly recommended from private industries. Got quite a bit of experience in the geotechnical field. So he definitely knows asphalt, which is exactly what we were looking for. So he just started here this month and he's doing great. We're getting him all ready to go for the summer and the Mission Avenue overlay. He's going to be spending a lot of time out there. So you may see him there if you're driving around there during the day. But here's Cody.
Well, I'm not a public speaker. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to talk about, but my name is Cody Hosier. And I moved here about 4 years ago with my wife and 3 kids from the Central Coast of California. And yeah, like Ben said, I've been working the last 4 years for a geotechnical engineer and excited to start here. So
Great. We welcome you.
Welcome.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cody. And then another item under employee recognition, we've been spending a lot of time talking about how to do this more effectively and more often. And that is to let you know when employees in the organization accomplish something that's important. And we've got a group that has gone through recently something called the Supervisor Boot Camp. And so these are folks that are out in the field managing crews that are doing something to keep our infrastructure and our amenities maintained properly. And so essentially what this boot camp was an opportunity for them to get together with other people who are also supervisors from other organizations and talk about culture, compliance, leadership, and learn all about how to apply those things back here for the city of Liberty Lake. And I don't want to spend a bunch of time talking about the curriculum. I do want to recognize these folks. We have a couple from Public Works and a couple from Parks and Rec. And so I'll turn the podium over to Ben and Jen so that they can introduce the individuals and let you know a little bit about the training itself. Ben, you want to start off? Jen's going to start off.
I was not prepared. Okay, so I think this kind of was spurred by an email that HR received from one of the teachers of the institute. Is that right? And she was just raving about the how well put together these guys were, how attentive they were, how engaged they were. And she said she hadn't seen that in a very long time. And so this group of guys really deserves a great big, huge, good job because they are learning and they're listening and they are good students. On
And then, Jen, if you would introduce yours.
Yep.
Derek and Ethan couldn't be here tonight.
So Johnny, Ethan, and Derek from Parks and Rec went through the boot camp. And before we bring the other group, I'm going to embarrass them by reading the email that Jen was referring to. So this is coming from the instructor. She said they were great to have in class. She's talking about all 5. Engaged, thoughtful, and genuinely invested in learning. They asked great questions, contributed to the group discussions, and were more than willing to share their own experiences when we talked through real-world examples. I also noticed most of them actively taking notes and staying really present throughout the sessions. And there's more, but I can see Johnny's face turning red, so I don't want to read the rest of it. So congratulations to Derek, Johnny, and Ethan. Then I'm going to ask Ben to introduce his guys.
All right, so I'm gonna introduce Chris and Stefan. Just want to say this is for really all 5 of these gentlemen. These are the people that we want out in the field, taking care of our people and taking care of our city. But we have Chris Carey, who's our roadside division supervisor. And he started with the city back in May as just a maintenance worker. He was recently promoted to that position. But he obviously has a little bit of supervisory time in the Air Force. But he's a fairly new supervisor here at the city. And then Stefan started with us as our streets division supervisor in July of last year. I told you guys to prepare a speech for them.
Well, we're just so glad to have all of you as part of the team, and it's so great that the city can help you guys get that additional training that you're interested in to help you guys grow in your positions because we're bigger now. And as you've seen, probably some of your coworkers and other people here at City Hall move up through the organization. We hope for that for you guys too.
Absolutely. And if we can top this off with a group photo, that would be awesome.
Oh, do you want us in it too? Or
Yes.
just- Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's get everybody up there.
I think it should be.
Sorry, Jed, we'll Photoshop you in.
All right, thank you all. As everybody's getting settled back into seats, the next item on the report is the department reports. The second meeting of the month, we send out the department's reports and give council an opportunity to ask the department heads any questions about those if you choose to do that. So fire away.
Councilmember
Yes,
Ball,
ma'am.
go ahead.
This one's probably for Ben. Is he? Oh, there he is. Winter Glow Storage Facility. I know it's something about working it out with the committee. What's the holdup on that?
So I think we're gonna actually start talking about that this evening during the workshop. It's really, we want to confirm that Winter Glow is going to be in that same location.
Oh,
Before we move forward on spending that budget item.
Oh.
So we're basically waiting to see what council wants to do with Winter Glow moving forward. Once that's decided, we'll hit it like gangbusters, just like we're doing.
okay. That answers the question.
Any, Councilmember Spencer?
Yes, thank you. This is from the PD's report. I actually just want to read one of the things that one of the notable cases that came up here, just so that the public can get a feel for some of the crazy stuff these guys have to deal with. So it says on 3/25/25, LLPD officers responded to an assault between juvenile brothers on North Eagle Road. Upon arrival, the responding officer saw one brother strangling the other. The officer gave several verbal commands to stop, which were ignored. When the officer attempted to take the aggressor into custody, he lunged toward the officer and appeared to reach for the officer's firearm. The juvenile male was taken into custody for assault second and third and transported to the Spokane County Juvenile Detention Center. So just wanted to give props to PD for having to deal with the crazy.
And that happened to be the call that everybody had to take off for when we were doing our veterans thing. So
Yeah.
thanks for pointing that out. These guys do a lot more than people realize.
Any other questions about the department reports?
Oh, yeah, I have one more, and
Yep.
this is probably for Lisa. Is she here or online?
She's online.
Can you promote her to a panelist? Hold on just a second. We're getting her on as a panelist.
Evan, if you're not finding her, Linda,
yeah,
you
she's
can
not.
ask the question. And there we go.
Go ahead, Lisa. Go ahead, Linda.
Is she there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Lisa.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just had a question, a couple things on the signal.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Okay, so we're having technical difficulties. I just got booted off the internet on Zoom. I'm on my phone now. The camera's not working. I can't get into the VPN. So just, so bear with me. I am on my phone. So what was the question?
Okay, on the Signal Point Apartments, something about 16 additional carports. So I guess my question is, why is that happening and why weren't they included? Are they building 16 more units, so therefore they need 16 more apartments?
No, the carports were part of the civil site plans. They just submitted the plans now. We knew that they were coming in. We just hadn't received the plans for them yet.
Okay, and then curious about Black.
And I have to apologize, this is buffering too, so I'm only getting about half of what anybody says.
Okay. My other question is about Black Goat Fitness building a facility. They're in a facility now at Moulter, and I can't remember the cross street, but have they been renting that? And if so, what's going to happen to that space?
I didn't hear the first part of the question. I'm sorry.
Lisa, I can answer it. I don't know if you can hear me. Yeah, there are tenants right now where they're building their own building across the parking lot. And as to what happens with the current space, that's up to the owner.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Lisa, that you.
Sorry.
Okay, any other questions on the department reports? Oh, okay.
All right, moving on. This is something that we talked about during the March 25th briefing or workshop when we were discussing the capital investment strategy. And so we've sent out a capital projects report. We want to give you the same opportunity to kind of ask questions about it, but I think Ben also has a couple of items that he is planning to brief. And so Ben, if you want to come up to the podium to simultaneously do that and then field any questions, I'll turn the floor over to council.
Okay, so I don't think the intent was to show the brief tonight, but I can talk. I mean, it's the first brief of many to come. So if there's any information that you think needs to be on that brief, I'd be happy to add it. I kind of took what I'm used to briefing and kind of so you can kind of see the I guess we are going to show it. Okay, but next slide, please. All right, so I'll just show you the first couple of slides. So I basically broke down the CFP in the three areas: the transportation, the parks and facilities, and the stormwater. So these are color coded. The green ones have been completed in the past. The yellow ones are really active projects, and then the orange ones are basically on hold. The reason the smart signal control is on hold is because in our discussions with the county, we're not quite ready to convert to a smart signal system. So they aren't. So that was a project that was put together by a previous engineer. And we found and as we've gone through this process that the county's not quite ready to do that yet. So we're keeping that one on hold for now.
Do we know what their timing might be? Because this is something we've been telling the public is coming.
They were not real specific, probably a few years at least.
Okay.
Next slide, please, Evan. So for parks and facilities, we've got a couple of these on hold in orange. Obviously, we're still discussing the new library, as well as Councilmember Ball asked about the storage building at Orchard Park. Similar answer. Once we figure out, we finalize what Winter Glow is going to be in the future, we'll move forward on that project. But everything else is moving along quite well. And then the next slide is just a few stormwater projects. Both of those are in progress. Those are the ones that were as part of the stormwater management plan that was approved last year. So we're moving forward on design with those to get those awarded this year. And those are both on Sprague. So the rest of the brief is really just project by project slides. If you have any specific questions you'd like to discuss tonight or have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Anybody? Councilmember Van Orman.
Ben, thank you. Question would be, Liberty Lake is basically a master plan community. So most of us are with HOAs. I saw recently inside of the HOA that it talked about your sidewalks being up and that the city would help us. Can you kind of go over that plan?
Sure, sure. So right now, the city offers a grinding program. So that's really all we're doing right now. So if your sidewalk is on a public street in the city's right of way, you have the ability to inquire with the city to see if we can grind it. So really the specification for grinding is if the sidewalk is lit, and most of this is from tree roots, obviously. I think everybody's aware of that.
Right.
If the sidewalk is lifting more than 2 inches between panel to panel, so if you see a 2-inch gap between 2 consecutive panels, that is, for lack of a better term, grindable. So if that's the case, all you have to do is contact us. We're looking to update the website a little bit, so it's a little bit more clear, because we've had a little bit of confusion in the last couple of days as everybody's starting to notice they're getting out more. We're starting to get a few more calls about that. So if that's the case, you can basically apply for the grind program. What we do is we collect quite a few just for economy of scale, typically 6 to 8, maybe 10, depending on how many we get. And then we kind of collect all those. We hire a contractor. I think it's Precision Concrete that has done it in the past. And then they'll come out and schedule and do all of them within a couple of days.
Can you clarify 2 inches minimum or maximum?
So 2 inches maximum. Thank you, Mayor. So anything more than that, because sidewalk panels are only 4 inches thick, we bear the risk of damaging the structural integrity of the panel. So those panels would actually have to be removed. So if that's the case, we're actively working on a program. Code enforcement is kind of running this at this point to work on a similar program. So right now, that similar program wouldn't necessarily we don't have any funds in the budget to do that as a city. Council could make that decision that budget-wise, we would contribute to that. But if we were looking at options to do that, we've looked at several other cities, how they do it, our size. And so I think we'll be ready to, I don't want to put words in Lisa's mouth or Sue's mouth, our code enforcement, when that will be ready, but we're actively working on that so that we can, because we know that's going to continue to be an issue as these trees mature in the city.
Can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
When we're looking at businesses or anything else that are doing concrete sidewalks, is there a list that we could do with the city that are licensed within the city to be able to choose from?
We could. I think one of the issues we found, and we haven't had any commercial businesses approach us yet. It's all been residents. And they've found that if you do one panel at a time, it's very cost prohibitive just because you've got that,
Get your
basically the
equipment.
mobilization cost is out of the range of most people's budgets in the city. So we're looking at trying to collect a lot of those, but we could definitely look at that if that's interesting. We just haven't had any commercial interest in it so far. I think a lot of our commercial areas maybe don't have the same issue with tree roots that we've kind of seen in some of our older neighborhoods. Maybe the trees were just planted correctly, which is, I think most of the time, the trees were just not planted deep enough. They didn't have the root barriers that we require now. So definitely an option though.
Thank you.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Didn't I see something? Maybe I made this up in my head that maybe the city was willing to work with citizens who have a sidewalk in front of their house, but it's their sidewalk to, again, economies of scale, help them out a little bit, go around and
And that'll have to be.
That's definitely an option that we're exploring right now for things that don't fit in with the existing grinding program.
right. I mean, to help them out financially, is that?
So
That-
so let me interject. There's no current program or budgeted resource to be able to replace sidewalks. The municipal code requires the adjacent property owner to have responsibility for those. If council desires for there to be a program developed where there was some kind of cost sharing mechanism created, we could look into that. And I think that's one of the options that Sue is researching to bring back some potential benchmarking from other places that of what options are available. But we haven't discussed that with property owners because that program doesn't exist here yet.
Yeah, Lisa's got her hand up, so it sounds like she might want to address that or something prior.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that is our intent, once we get the data on the sidewalks, is to be able to evaluate what some other communities do and present some potential ways that we could facilitate more cost-effective repair of the sidewalks, whether it be through grants, whether it be through coordinated bidding or something like that. And and Sue has been researching this. When we get to the sidewalk master plan and our public engagement, we will be running some of these up the flagpole with the stakeholder group and eventually with city council. And we'll be bringing some information back to you and some possible recommendations or some choices that you as a city council can make moving forward.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Thanks, Lisa. Council, Mayor Pro Tem.
One more quick one. I mean, it seems to me that we're kind of, we're trying to come up with a repair plan, but that obviously does not necessarily solve the long-term issue. So is there any long-term potential fix for this? I mean, we can grind 1,000 sidewalks and then 3 years from now, the tree roots will push it up even more.
You're correct. It really, I mean, and Mark and I have discussed this a little bit. Tree replacement is going to have to happen at some point. And we've talked about putting in some line items in future budgets to account for that in phases. Obviously, if it's in front of a residence, we're gonna have to discuss that with the resident because really that's technically their responsibility right now. But yeah, that's definitely something. It's really those trees are gonna have to be replaced and planted correctly.
And I know we went through several years ago now, update of the tree plans and what's allowed and what's not. And I think maybe getting that information out to the public again, because I drive down one section of the street between Mark Sabin and I. There's a lot of trees that have been cut down, not replaced, or people have replaced them with not like trees. So letting people know what they can and can't plant, which will help alleviate those longer term problems. I think a lot of people are just planting something to replace it and not necessarily going by the guidelines.
Right.
So that's something maybe the HOAs can help spread the word.
Yes, ma'am. And we're incorporating a new arborist as well. Yeah. If anybody has any questions, he'll go out and talk and consult, and that's something that Dan's been very active in since he started this year.
Great.
And I'm going to look for opportunities to continue to draw your attention back to the capital investment strategy. This is one of the reasons why we specifically carved out trees, no pun intended, as pieces of infrastructure, classes of infrastructure, because they are, and we need to treat them as such. So,
but it seems that it's also not just the tree. I mean, if we were to go up and say, okay, we're going to replace 1,000 trees in the city, in the process of doing that, we're going to damage a ton of sidewalks too. Right?
Potentially, yeah. They're connected. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
The Councilmember Ball was next.
Just a thought. Okay, so the trees that are really old that are causing the sidewalks to be pushed up were most likely planted by the developer. Am I correct?
Potentially.
Is there any recourse to the developer? Like, why did you plant these trees that obviously aren't working?
Well, and some of that goes way back before the city was even incorporated. So some of that's hard to.
Correct.
We are actively, I think, spending a lot more time inspecting planting of trees now. We're going to incorporate our arborist into that process as well. So we think we've solved the issue moving forward, but like you said, there's still quite a few that are the main problem causers are still have to be addressed.
Who's the arborist?
His name is Dan Mouse. He started about 2 months ago.
Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Van Orman is next.
I just wanted to emphasize the fact that we are a tree city, USA, and there are some valuable attributes for having trees here too. So while we might talk about replacement of sidewalks and grinding and so forth, that's kind of goes with the territory. Think about everything else that goes with it. This is a beautiful city. And I think we can really be thankful that we do have trees within Liberty Lake.
Anybody else? Not seeing any. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Ben. Last item on tonight's agenda, we committed last meeting to give you a quick update on the Trailhead Restaurant. Many of you may have seen the article this week in the Spokane Journal of Business, and that had a lot of good information in it, but I'm going to ask Lisa to give you a quick plan review and permitting update. Lisa?
Yeah, just a super quick, we had a pre-development meeting with, the Chavalitas, crew and their architect and their contractor back in mid-February. We received their building permit application on April 4th. It is a complete, application. We have it in review right now with our chief, plans examiner, Spokane Valley Fire District, Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District, and Spokane County Regional Health. And first review comments are actually due on the 18th, so this Friday. And typically we have 2 or 3 rounds of reviews before we get it finalized. And but it is underway, and hopefully we'll be kicking out a permit in the next couple weeks.
And Lisa, just for clarification, they still plan to open up some sort of service before the restaurant opens, correct?
I can't speak to that. Perhaps Kyle can.
Oh, there's Kyle. Yeah. Okay, the answer was yes, unless you want to expand on that. You don't need to come up. Hold on, Kyle's coming.
So some of the initial discussions were to carve out a window over by the driving range to start serving prepackaged meals on the go. And so it's my understanding that that is still their intent. Timeline is still to be determined.
Great, thank you.
And so if there are no other questions, Mayor, that concludes my report.
All right, thanks, everybody. All right, moving on, Spokane Valley Fire Department. Welcome, Chief Soto.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, city officials, and my fellow citizens. This evening, I'll be bringing our first quarter report, which covers January, February, March of 2025. And Miss Rochelle, is that a pleasure to meet you? Man, we're working things out. So we'll get started. For the first three months, we have a total of 6,118 emergency 911 calls across all our response areas. 84% of those were for emergency medical services. Next slide, please. This is a heat map of our entire response area year to date, so the first 3 quarters, and you can see the bulk of the calls are to our west. And obviously the darker the color, the more busy. So next slide, please. So the 6,118 calls generated 7,537 responses. As you may or may not know, not every call requires just 1 unit. Some, especially more dangerous or calls that require adequate emergency personnel on scene, require more units. So that's why that number will always be higher. Of the response units, and I'll just cover the bottom numbers because the top numbers are for just the month of March to give you an idea of the total call volume. But for the bottom numbers are the year-to-date first quarter. You'll see that we had 3 engine companies over 800 calls, actually almost over 850 calls, one of them approaching 1,000, which is a significant amount of calls to respond to. Our own engine 3 here at Liberty Lake was sitting directly in the middle of all responders at 8. So not too busy, not too slow. Next slide, please. This is the percentages of calls in the response areas for each district, or when I say district, each district location for fire station. You'll see that the first 3, regardless of the month, which is the top row, or the first quarter, which is the bottom row, it's station 8, station 7, and station 1, and they make up 45% of the total call volume. The first 5 fire stations make up almost 70% of the call volume. So we're busy. Station 3 here locally is right around 6.5 to 7% of the total call volume. Next slide, please. This is our auto aid, mutual aid. The top row, the numbers on the top row indicate or show what where we responded to other districts or cities. So 51 calls with the city of Spokane, 32 with Fire District 9, 22 Fire District 8, and 1 in the unserved population. And then in the row below that are the other agencies that responded to our areas for auto aid. And you'll see District 8 was the busiest at 73, followed by the city of Spokane with 34 and District 9 at 18. Next slide, please. This is our year to date. The top is the first quarter numbers in comparison to each previous year's month and for January, February, and March. We are currently 2.5% or 2.4% ahead of last year's number, but this is the busiest quarter we've had on record. In fact, this was the busiest March we had on record and the third busiest month of all time. I don't know who turned on the call spigot, but it was super busy. I couldn't tell you what caused it. I didn't think the weather was crazy. I didn't think there was a whole lot of full moons. But there's a lot of trees, but they weren't falling. But sorry, pun intended. Next slide. This is a tough crowd tonight. All right, speaking of crazy, we're going to jump right into the behavioral health dashboard for Liberty Lake. Next slide. So the good news is we didn't generate a lot of calls, so that's good. So for behavioral health calls, we had 11, and you can see the numbers there indicate at what time of the day that we received the call and then the total amount. So 11 psych calls. And then right below that is our overdose calls. So we had 2 overdose calls for the first quarter, which I'm very pleased to see that that number is low. Next slide, please. Now this one's a little bit trickier. This is the first quarter and month to month, but what I want to focus on is the bottom row numbers, which are the first quarter numbers for the last 5 years, and you will see this is been our second slowest total amount of calls for psych calls and OD calls, which again, I'm very glad to see. I think that's great to see. Next slide, please. This is Narcan usage for Liberty Lake. Next slide. You'll see for the first quarter, we had 4 treatments with Narcan. Of those, they were all in home residences. Next slide. They were all due to actual opium derivatives overdose, and the age range was our 20 to 29-year-olds. So next slide. This is our comparison over the last 5 years, just to kind of show us where we're at call volume wise, and things have gotten lower, but you never know. I mean, these things kind of just ebb and flow. So right now I'm happy to see that our numbers are lower, and then it kind of just shows you on the bottom through those time frames where those calls occurred. Most of them were in people's residences. Next slide. Again, just focusing on Liberty Lake's last 5 years of call volume in regards to the Narcan treatments. You also see that most of the calls were for an actual overdose. Now, again, I know the percentages seem high, but when you're dealing with smaller numbers, any kind of difference obviously magnifies it. It's still not good, but again, the highest numbers almost at 38% is for 14. Below that, you'll see the age ranges all the way from 10 years old up to 60-plus-year-olds, and you'll see that most of the calls have been for 60-plus-year-olds. And generally, I'll just tell you, most of the time during my career, what I've seen is just, hey, I forgot my glasses. This looks like the right bottle. Hey, why just stop at 1? That's a whole other one. But generally speaking, they're usually accidental, and it's just I can't read the bottle. I don't know how much I'm taking. I forgot that I took one, and so I'm not too concerned about that. That's par for the course. Next slide, please. Community risk reduction in Liberty Lake. Next slide. So I want to give a shout out to our local hospitals and our respiratory therapists, because they're also involved with us with the nasal cannula fire fuse program. And where we get the funding for that is through grants. And again, that is a nasal cannula for somebody who smokes. And I want to be crystal clear, you should never smoke when you're on oxygen. Now, that seems like it's pretty commonsensical, but it's not. So like anything else, you have to sometimes make things in order to help those who struggle, and the struggle is real. So these do save lives. They will shut down the oxygen if a fire starts, and the potential is super high for that. The falls prevention pilot is still going on. Again, if you know of somebody who needs something, call us. We're doing our best to get those grab bars out there. Falls is our #1 call for EMS, and it's you can attack it from so many different ways, but at the end of the day, it just seems like that number's always stays high, and it's not always because of the sidewalks with 2 inches. So I did it again. We've been in the schools for our junior fire marshal and sound off programs, and those things have been doing good. We love getting in there with the kids, and the kids actually like us, so that's kind of cool. So, all right, next slide, please. This is prevention. Within the first three months of first quarter, we provided 206 inspections. We didn't charge any inspection fees for those. We did find 222 violations. 23 have been fixed, but understand some of those violations are not where we're going to just run back in and find people. Our goal is to make us safer. It's not to punish people. Obviously, if there's a big issue or somebody doesn't fix something after a lot of time, we're going to go in there and say, hey, you got to get this fixed. But that's not an issue here. And a lot of those violations are just expired fire extinguishers. So we've encouraged them to get new ones or get somebody in there to monitor them and test them, make sure that they're good to go. But nothing there that's freaking me out. It's pretty good. Next slide. So this here is just us, and by us, just our city. Okay, so the first quarter, we had a total of 323 911 calls. Of those, 79% were for emergency medical services. Next slide, please. This is a heat map of our area. Again, we don't get it too far in there because we don't want, there's HIPAA, there's PHI that we want to protect, but it gives you an idea of where the bulk of the calls come in. And you could probably see that that is around an area called the Guardian. So that's generally where we have most of our EMS calls. Next slide, please. Of the 323 calls, we had 387 responses. Again, most of these calls, sometimes these calls require more units. The bulk of the calls were handled by Engine 3. In fact, 254 of those calls they took by themselves. And then below that, you'll kind of see the 5-year change and 10-year change of call volume in our city. And you'll see that over the last 5 years, call volume has raised by 42%. And over the last 10 years, just over 92%. So obviously people are moving here and we want that. Emergencies happen, and that's why we're here. Next slide, please. This just gives you kind of a window. On average, we average almost 4 calls a day in the city, and those almost 4.5 responses. So just to give you a general idea, and you can see right there, I did tell the truth. Our #1 call is Falls with 58. Next slide. And this is just in case you're bored and you're not dizzy enough with all this stuff. All this is shows you what time of day and what day of week we get calls on average. So in fact, in this case, it's not even the average. This is every call we've had, all 323 calls broken out at what time of day and what day of week. So you have an idea. And then our last slide is again, the overall in comparison to the previous 5 or 4 first quarters. And you'll see again, second busiest first quarter on record. And we're already 5.6% ahead of last year's call volume. Now, again, remember the numbers are smaller. So any kind of change, the percentages look larger than life. And so we're busier and we're continuing to get busier. So, any questions, ma'am? That's it.
I've got a couple, but I'll defer to the council first. Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. As always, very informative. With the weather being much nicer, we seem to get more transient that will be coming through because we're the first city heading west and they're heading towards Spokane, and then they're the last city heading east. Do you find a spike in a lot of transient individuals who suddenly had medical challenges in the area?
I can't say that I have, but I can say that I do a lot of walking. My wife and I do in the area in the River District. River District right there represented. And we've noticed that there's been an uptake in those amount of, you can see those people out there. But I also say a shout out to our police department, Liberty Lake PD. They're out there all over the place. So that's been pretty cool to see them handling business. But I couldn't say that that's the lone reason. I couldn't. Yeah.
I always find it interesting, for our city, we don't see a lot of transient, but suddenly when you do see one, in my case, I see one, I go, oh, there's somebody because they stand out. Over the last 3 weeks, about twice, 3 times a week, I've had to be down in the medical area of downtown Spokane, on Catholic Charities and stuff. And it is staggering.
It is.
It is staggering to see what has gone on in the area and what happens to all the businesses, the vacant buildings and that stuff. So it's a tragic that we have this. We're trying to deal with it. But I've had citizens say to me, he said, well, we're concerned about Liberty Lake. We got a lot of transient stuff. And I say, that I think between our police department and fire department do an excellent job, and our staff to be able to work with this. But if they really want to see a challenge, if they really want to see a comparison, go to downtown Spokane.
I've been there, done that. Absolutely. The bottom line is, doesn't matter who calls 911. It doesn't matter if your sidewalks are 2 inches too high or you don't have enough trees. We treat everybody the same. We respond to everybody and we take care of everybody just like that. And that's why I love this department. Everybody here is from here and we get it. Family first, and we treat everybody the same.
I think Councilmember Spencer has a question.
Yeah, thanks for the report, Chief. I actually wanted to report on the inspections because we have a business out here in Liberty Lake, and we had looks like Jeremy Kish came out and inspected our business, and he actually explained to us a little bit that you guys have added some inspectors, and so you guys are able to do a little bit more thorough job. And at least for our business, he pointed out several things that nobody had ever told us about. So we were able to install an additional extinguisher and mount one in a different spot, and couple minor things, but props to you guys for getting that done because it's all about prevention.
No, absolutely. We've created our own problem, which is a good problem. By having a class 2, being a class 2 fire department, that lowers our insurance for businesses more so than residences, but it lowers everybody's significantly enough that people say, hey, I want to live there. It's safer to live there. It's more cost efficient to live there. And so more and more businesses and more people, but specifically in this case, businesses move in, and it's our job to make sure that the businesses are following the rules and the laws. And due to the large amount of businesses that have been moving into all of our response areas, we did have to hire 2 more, and we're already looking at possibly 2 more on top of that, because I'm not a quantities guy. I'm a quality guy. And so to me, it's all about quality. It's about meeting our business owners, meeting their needs, and helping them get to where or where we need them, but being respectful and understanding, and again, getting to know them. So.
Okay, any other council questions? Because I've got a couple on my mind. All right, so a couple of things, Chief. You had mentioned false alarms. I remember having a discussion with Chief Simmons with regards to some of our repeat offenders for false alarms for on the police side. I'm looking at former Chief Asmus. They're probably the same ones that you had when you were in office. And we kind of threw around the idea of, for setting up some sort of fine program once you get past a certain point. Have you guys thought about implementing some sort of fine system?
All the time.
Okay.
I didn't say that out loud.
Okay.
That was my inside voice. We do, and that is a very common practice. Sometimes I've seen it as low as 2 calls. Sometimes I've seen it high as 5.
Yeah.
But it is very common practice to fine for responses when they don't take care of their fire alarms.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So if we have expired fire extinguishers in our homes, how's the best way to dispose of those?
I would call, and I truly mean this, I'm that guy that would tell you, if I don't know, I can get back to you, but I would call our prevention division, just call our local fire department, call us, and I'm sure they'll know exactly. I generally hold on to mine. I use them. I have them all over the place. I don't know. I'm just that guy that, I always seem to use them.
Mine's pushing 30 years old, so I figure I better replace it.
Oh, well, okay. Well, that's different now. I'm talking like a year or two over. 30 years. Yeah. I'm only 25, so I wouldn't know.
No, and I think that's a good thing for everybody to know, right? You move things and you don't think about it.
Yeah, and if you have the really, really old ones, the ones where it looks like they're in a copper, it's kind of like a copper looking, or it's got a patina on it because it's so old, or it says soda something on it. Call me because it's worth something. I want you to get rid of it. And so I'll tell you, we'll get it figured out, but don't throw that away. You could probably sell it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know. I might reach out to Waste Management as well, because it might be something we can dispose of at the bulk.
Yeah,
waste
definitely don't
event.
want to throw them in there because they do, they crush down and can cause an explosion. So
Yep,
definitely.
that was my thought. Okay, thanks. Thanks for indulging my questions. All right, anybody else? All right, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
All right, and up next, we have Liberty Lake Sewer and Water Department, and we have confirmed Bill Genoways on the line with us. Welcome, Bill.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bill Genoway here, City Commissioner for Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District. Well, we've started our CCC program, which is Cross Connection Contamination. And it's early in the process. We have some numbers. 144 of the commercial buildings we've tested, only 24 have failed, which is a little high for this time of year, but that's an early count. We had 48 residentials that passed, 6 failed. That's again early in the count. So it tells you that it's time for people to start getting their backflow valves checked and certified and into the district, so we have a record. We did have another annexation. It's over in it's called the Nelson annexation. It's about a little over 200 acres on the east and southeast side of Legacy Ridge. It's a family deal. So it's easy. It's in the UGA. It's one resident to 10 acres. And they're not really wanting to develop it. They just want to have access to sewer and water because they are in our floodplain, and we really want them to be sewered, and we have sewer available to them. They would have to put it in, of course, but that's part of the deal. And they know that. They came to our meeting last night. Ben was there last night. We talked about some of the paving jobs that the city's going to do here in the next year. And So he's going to work with some of our guys to identify iron in the street that needs to be raised or lowered or however, whatever needs to be happened, whatever's going to happen. So they can be together on that process. We're in discussions with the Spokane County Golf Group. They they would like us to have a connection to their wells on Meadowood and Liberty Lake, and it's more of a redundancy issue in case one of their wells go down, then we could supply water until they could get their wells back up. And so that discussion is ongoing, and we're happy to do that. Just a little, I don't know if you have any Public Works Trust Fund money. I know we do. The state is kind of going after that because they're looking for money, and Public Works Trust Fund is a fairly sizable amount. So if that's something you have, some of those loans, you might make sure that you're in the process and you're down the road a ways. So other than that, that's about all I have, unless you have any questions.
I'm looking around. I don't see any. Thanks for being here.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, we are up to our workshop discussions. Up first is financial policy and personnel manual updates. We're going to hand this over to Kyle.
All right, thank you, Mayor, Council. So Evan's working on pulling that up, but I do have a hard copy for everybody to follow along as well, and obviously for you to take. On the heels of our discussion tonight, we're going to button up the red lines and bring back a resolution potentially as early as May 6th to codify some of these changes that we're going to go over tonight. And so you look for that in the next packet when that comes out. But tonight we're going to discuss some updates to the financial policy document and also the personnel manual that I again mentioned that will be coming for codification on May 6th. Next slide, please, Evan. So we'll touch on the financials first, and what you're going to see kind of a common theme with a lot of these updates that we're going to propose, and they're pragmatic solutions to the pains of a growing city. And so we are trying to catch up with growing population. Finance and admin services is really the customer service wing of our employees here. And to the extent that we can make the execution of their jobs easier, we'd like to do that. And you're going to see that common theme as we kind of run through the financial policy section. Personnel is as well, but we'll touch on that towards the end. But so for tonight, really what we're going to get into is the reimbursement of travel expenses, that policy, the vehicle allowance policy that we currently have, an expansion of that, our employee appreciation program, we have one, again, looking to expand on that. Protective footwear allowance, we have various departments, not just the police department, that require protective footwear to execute their job. And so the recognition of that and providing potentially for an allowance for that on an annual basis. Every time we update our financial policies, we usually have an update from the state on public works procurement thresholds. We'll get into that as well. And then just very minor updates to titles and terms that we'll get into. On the personnel manual side, we have 3 quick things that we'll touch on at the very end as well. So next slide, please, Evan. So reimbursement of travel expenses. Anybody that has traveled with the city on official city business is generally familiar with our current process. You're issued a purchase card. To the extent that we can accommodate for your arrangements, we do that ahead of time. But sometimes those are all included when you're traveling. And when you have a purchase card, it is a requirement for you to keep every single receipt for every dollar that you spend. There are thresholds on tips. There are thresholds on what you can and cannot purchase. That's a lengthy list for someone on travel status to keep in the forefront of their mind nonstop. If you're running through an airport and you're trying to grab something, for breakfast from Starbucks and you forget a receipt, that's burdensome on our city officials to be able to account for that. And through no fault of their own, there's things that slip through the cracks. And so it's our job on the finance and admin side to button that up as much as we can. And so our recommendation is that we transition over to what is really, I think, I would say the majority of cities go to per diem. And I would say that we take it a step further. And if city officials can have all of their arrangements buttoned up beforehand, we would advance that per diem to that city official for them to go about their business however they choose. You're not tracking receipts. You're not worried about any expenses. You're not accidentally adding an adult beverage with dinner, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, how do we back that out? And so these are just common things that happen that you're no longer going to have to worry about. And so advanced travel per diem is a pragmatic approach to kind of solving what is we have city officials going and training and traveling consistently. And so to the extent that we can centralize that and standardize that process, we would like to do that. And so in addition to that, our procurement specialist that you met a couple meetings ago, Cody Melnick, is going to be our point of contact with the city. If you want to sign up for the AWC annual conference, you're going to reach out to him, and through me, reach out to me, and then I can connect you with him if you'd like. And then he's going to make all your arrangements for you. He's going to get your hotel. He's going to get your mileage. If you're flying, we can arrange for flights to destinations that require flight. And then he's going to package that in a voucher that gets approved prior to travel. And then you get to go you're done. You're done with your obligation on travel status. And you get to worry about going and learning and training and whatever the issue that you're there. You're not worried about, oh, I forgot a receipt, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that. So the intended outcome of this policy is obviously to reduce the logistical burden during travel. It centralizes the travel arrangements so that we don't get 8 different travel reimbursement forms and we're trying to figure out what goes where. So we are centralizing that. And really, this solidifies our compliance with audit requirements, with policies, so that we have a greater control over what that looks like. So staff recommendation that you're going to come back that you will likely see on May 6th is this transition to per diem for travel.
Before I go to Mayor Pro Tem, some people might be wondering, so we used to do the per diem.
Yes.
Then we switched.
Yep.
Now this is coming back to the per diem, but more organized and a little bit more tight of a process. Can you
Right.
give a very brief history of why we
Absolutely.
changed in the first place? Because people are.
So our first iteration of per diem was after the fact, and it was really, we left it up to the departments. Figure it out. Here's the form. You have to submit it and bring it back to us. And it was that way for a while. And then we would get, I would say 90% were submitted with errors. And that's not, you guys don't see that every day. And staff that travel once or twice a year, they're not in front of that form every day. So of course there's going to be some errors. And so that was getting passed back and forth. And then at the time it was like, well, if we just issue them a card, they can go pay for whatever they need to. We'll set some guardrails and everything will be fine. And so we've obviously run into those issues. So the hope is that if we transition back to this, we have learned from previous, efforts, and we hope that this is kind of a solved once and for all. So
Thank you for
That's
the background,
yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Kyle, just a couple of quick questions. First of all, covering and tracking travel expenses is a nightmare. So I appreciate doing it on a per diem basis. I do want to just double check that I'm understanding here. In addition to hotel, Uber, car, flight, we're talking about meals too, correct?
Correct.
So if, let's just say for the sake of argument, that we give somebody $100 per diem for their meals on an upcoming trip, if they don't spend that $100, they keep it, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So Yeah, that is it's use it or save it. So.
How would something like Uber figure into that?
So that would be on the back end, a singular reimbursement if you're doing car service.
Councilmember Kurtz.
So I too appreciate the per diem move. I think it's a good move. I was curious about the amount that you're looking at doing for per diem. Are you looking at following the federal and state reimbursement rates?
Yep. So federal releases their per diem rates annually, I believe every January. And so the destination of travel has a set per diem rate, and that's what we would calculate to.
Yeah, and is it similar to in the past where, say, the conference you're going to serves lunch, that's deducted from the per diem?
So-
based on the agenda?
Yes, that said, we have recently run into issues with dietary restrictions.
Oh.
And so to artificially punish those that may have travel dietary restrictions, we are not including that.
Okay,
So
glad I asked. All right, Councilmember Ball, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, so the procurement, Cody, is that? Smith?
Cody, yeah, yep.
Okay, so if he books the hotel and the air and whatever else, what'd you say?
Registration for the conference, anything
Yeah,
like that.
So
yeah.
then the per diem is just for everything else, right?
Correct. And so what would happen is we would purchase all of those things up front.
Mhm.
And so since we already know where you're going, we know the per diem calculation, we would get that in the vouchers ahead of your travel for council to review and approve. And then you would get a check issued to you. I think our current consideration is within 7 days of your travel.
Okay, thank you.
Before we get back, Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm assuming that we will keep the mileage separate if you're using your own vehicle.
Yeah, so mileage, so that we would calculate that if you're driving, we would calculate that into that reimbursement as well.
Because I know with the city, how we've done in the past, maybe it's been changed the last few years, I'm not familiar with it. But if we use our own vehicle within the city limits, there was no reimbursement for that.
And so again, yeah, there will be discussions on that and I think probably 3 slides.
Right, and it was set up that if we went to Cheney or wherever it was, we already knew what the mileage was.
Right.
And it made it very simple to keep track of that, because I agree, the way it was set up was just a friggin' nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I must have spent 2 hours on a ridiculous little thing. Because I had dinner and where it rings up, it was the bar. Where you can't spend the money at the bar. It wasn't a bar, I don't know. I mean, it was just, it was a nightmare. So, yeah. What we've always done in our company is because I had so many people traveling, I would estimate what it was going to be a day. Let's say it was $50. I would give them $50. Now, if they wanted to eat a candy bar and keep the
Right.
$49.50, I could care less.
Right.
It was no longer my issue.
Yep. And to Councilmember Kennedy's point, per diem is our version of that. So,
Yeah. Very good.
Anybody else before we go back to Mayor Pro Tem? Doesn't look like it. Go ahead.
Just one quick follow-up, Kyle, if we're gonna have one person booking all of this, are we planning to set up accounts so that the city can keep the benefits of, for instance, let's say we're booking everyone on United or Alaska or whatever, and we are getting miles for that, the city is. I would hope that we would be able to use those miles as a city for future trips for future employees as well.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
are we going to have accounts set up with all these different items under the city's name?
We'll have it for airfare. To the extent that we can take advantage of any other programs, we will do that. as
Okay,
well. So-
great. Thank you.
So you're talking like credit cards with mileage?
Not necessarily
or the
credit cards with
frequent flyer,
miles or
but
just,
the frequent flyer
yeah,
number.
just frequent flyers. Yeah. Yep.
All right, and, Councilmember Kurtz.
Maybe this is a down the weeds, in the weeds question, but
Yeah.
like if, I'm curious about the mileage thing too, because those are usually tied to people.
I'm sorry, what was
They're
it?
usually tied to people, not, I think.
Yeah, so you,
Yeah.
businesses can set up and reimbursement. So historically, we have relied on those traveling, arrange your accommodations and we're going to reimburse you. And so if we're able to centralize that, then we can get a singular account to do that. So.
All right, anybody else? Making sure doesn't look like Jed's got anything. Look, Councilmember Ball.
Well, do we have any frequent flyer plans through the city right now? I mean, do you guys have, the Alaska Airlines Visa, whatever?
No, so the program that we have right now is we rely on city officials to book, and then the city reimburses that official for booking that, so.
All right, doesn't look like we have any other questions on that item.
Excellent. Okay, next slide, please, Evan. So again, we have a vehicle allowance policy in place. It was implemented in 2020, and it was specifically for the mayor. And it was $140 a month. If you take a snapshot of vehicle allowance policies across the state, you're going to see anywhere from $200 to $500 a month for executives, a little bit less, so probably around 2 to 3 for department directors. And so this is, again, we have staff consistently on a weekly basis traveling within Spokane County, Portland, within, I would say, generally 30 miles of the city limits on a weekly, potentially daily basis conducting business. And so this is just a standard evolution of what a vehicle allowance policy will look like. And council, so these are estimates, and council can make any sort of decision on whether we execute a vehicle allowance policy or we don't. And so this is just one of those to save on daily reimbursement requests within the city. We would want to implement some sort of vehicle allowance policy for executive staff. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Kyle. This is the one that gives me a little bit of heartburn. And
Yeah,
so I just want to ask a couple of questions here. First of all, just for the public listening, how many directors do we have?
6.
Okay, so we'd be looking at 6 times the 200, right?
Correct.
Okay. So we're talking about 1,200 a month then, that we would be putting
Plus,
forward.
and so plus 600 a month for the mayor and the city.
Correct. I'm just talking about directors. So then the mayor one would more than double, and we'd be adding an administrator one, or would the mayor and administrator be together at the 300 a month?
They would be separate at 300 a month.
So really be 600 a month.
Correct.
Okay. So then total, we'd be looking at about 1,800 a month for.
Yeah, so the actual
vehicles.
amount is 21,600 a year.
Thank you. You probably knew I was going to ask that question.
Yeah, and I can pop in and say I wouldn't spend nearly that much in mileage, but I don't know about future
Sure.
people in the position. Yes. Oh, sorry, I was reading.
Okay.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Can I put you and Mark on the spot?
Yeah.
Like, what, on a month, like, what do you generally spend? What's your reimbursement?
Well, so it's in my monthly, it's in my weekly paycheck, so I don't try, I can go back and calculate if you guys want me to, I can. But some of, I end up spending, it's parking sometimes that really adds up when I do go downtown and have to pay to, park in a lot or park at the convention center or something like that. Or like I went down, when I went to the Girl Scouts fundraiser, it was like $20 to park that night. Right. Sometimes I see that, multiple times a month, sometimes I see none. So it kind of averages out. But yeah, if anybody wants me to, I can go back and look at my meetings and do some rough calculations, but I don't see, again, personally for me, we're talking about the position, not the person. I don't see me personally getting to that amount.
I currently don't submit reimbursements because it costs more to process them than the money is worth.
Mhm.
Can I ask you a follow-up, Mark?
Sure.
Was there anything, we could talk about you like you weren't here if you would, too, but is there anything in your contract that talks about a vehicle reimbursement?
No, not presently.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Can I ask another follow-up? Like,
Oh, I think Councilmember Dunn's got one first.
Kyle, I support the objective here in relieving an administrative burden, and I think the numbers are appropriate. Thanks.
Go ahead, Councilmember Kurtz.
Mark, do you drive often?
Multiple times a week. Out Spokane Valley. Last week I was in Colfax. I talked to Councilmember Ball from Colfax. Like all over the place. Yeah.
Thanks.
And I think so the issue that we're going to run into is if you ask every single director, you're going to get 6 different answers. And I can tell you right now, I spend $10 a month So I would be inclined to decline this offer, so. But if you ask different directors, they're gonna tell you that they do potentially way more than $200 a month.
Well, and I think there's some staff members using, well, at least they were at one point using their own personal vehicles because there wasn't there weren't any city vehicles.
Right, and really,
available.
that's kind of that's the spirit of this change, is that if we really want to fully equip the city with transportation sufficient to meet the needs, we're gonna have to purchase 4 or 5 vehicles to have them available to each different department. The hope is that we don't do that. I don't think we would do that anyways, but this would alleviate, whatever iteration of this would potentially alleviate the need to purchase any vehicles.
I saw another hand over. Well, can we go?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, Councilmember
Um,
Kirsten Kennedy.
You just talked about maybe declining it. Is that an option? Like, can you select to do it?
Personally, I would have a ethical issue accepting $200 a month when I use maybe 10. And so, but if you ask different directors, and I'm not gonna put anybody on the spot here. I would encourage them to accept this.
Councilmember Kennedy.
I do support that we have some fixed amount that is given there. Going back 5 years, you and I have many discussions on this, all positive, with the ideas of why were we going to that? What we were able to do is because we kept track of council members where they were going, the mayor of the time was going, and that's how we came up with that dollar.
Right, yep.
Was that. The idea was we wouldn't have to do all the paperwork. But then the question came up, well, what happens as we grow? Does that change? And the question was at the time, what you were proposing is that we'll periodically, quarterly or twice a year, would look at the records, have these individuals keep track of the records to show what the average is. I have a little bit of a heartburn with the idea of just looking at what the other cities do, because everybody's different.
Right.
So I think if we were to go what was discussed 5 years ago, that would give us a good base to go on. And if it's 300 a month or 200 a month, and we see after 6 months that it's more, then we have a base to be able to say, hold it, we need to raise this.
Anybody else? Councilmember Spencer, you've been kind of quiet. Do you have anything?
Thanks. Yeah, I was actually going to ask a question along those same lines, because if we have a fixed amount here, we don't really have a mechanism to say, all right, well, we need to increase this. And I guess my other question is it a possibility to go through on a director by director basis and say, so-and-so is going to just need more because of the nature of their work. If it's something where you're sitting in the office all the time and you don't need that additional, is it possible to make that variable, or does it need to be a flat amount for everybody?
I think we can make this look however we deem equitable. How about that? So.
All right, any other questions? Mayor Pro Tem.
One more quick question, Kyle. Since the intended outcome here would prohibit the use of city vehicles, are we going to be able to save any on insurance since we won't have as many people be able to have access to driving city vehicles as we do now?
We would save on the future increase. I wouldn't see any cost savings from what we pay now. There wouldn't be any reduction. Because the outcome is that we don't have to purchase more. Right. Because the staff that the staff that report to the directors are using the vehicles that we're currently have, so.
One question, which is a concern. Many individuals with their insurance, they might have a part of their policy is they cannot use that for any person or any work. And if they get into an accident while they're doing work, it could come back on the city.
Yeah, and so we have
We have to be.
We have specific language that requires them to have that included in their policy if they don't already.
We would require that?
Yeah, we have the language included that insurance must be sufficient to accommodate any accidents that may occur during the course of city business.
Okay, thank you.
Legally, since we're elected officials and not employees, would that be considered work? I'm genuinely curious now that you brought that up.
Right, and so to that extent, once we
hobby.
once we once we mold this into what we think is the intended outcome, we'll kick it to Sean for his review and he'll be able to provide any.
Loaded on Chuck.
I don't think any of us want to pick up the phone and call our insurance carriers because then they'll be tipped off.
Sure.
And Kyle, mention also, don't go into the details now, hit those later, but there's a corresponding change to the personnel manual that deals with this, that talks about reporting, accidents, tickets, et cetera. So
Yeah, and that's again, just bolstering what we have in the personnel manual is the requirement to report any of those accidents and anything that may happen off the job that would affect your ability to do your job. So we have those reporting requirements that are going to be incorporated into these changes as well.
Well, I'm not going to go there. I'll wait till we get to that piece.
Sure.
All right. Anybody else before we move on? Okay, go ahead.
Excellent.
Sal.
Next slide, please, Evan. So we have a version of the Employee Appreciation Program in our financial policy. We also have it in practice with what we call our wellness program. And so we've all attended the summer barbecue over at Orchard Park, staff holiday parties around Christmas time. And so historically what that looks like is that, the city can cobble together something under $400 to be able to provide the primary portion of a meal. And then we send out a call to staff and elected officials. Hey, can you bring this? Can you bring this? Can you bring this? And so the staff appreciation party has then become a requirement to bring something to the staff appreciation party. And so that always just doesn't sit well. So this employee appreciation program, the proposed changes is essentially to expand this in the financial policy to explicitly allow, let's be able to buy burgers and hot dogs and whatever else is going to accompany a staff appreciation event without requiring the staff to bring all of these different sides. And so we have been able to execute this to a smaller extent under the guise of wellness because we have all these pamphlets saying, hey, don't eat 5 burgers at the staff appreciation event and you might lose some weight. So, and so we have this really loose tangential relation to a wellness program that we kind of hide behind. And so the effort here is to say, hey, we're going to call it out. We are going to throw a staff appreciation party right now twice a year, and we're going to keep it under this dollar threshold. But obviously, and so the intended outcome, let's recognize the staff for their work without them requiring to bring stuff. And then obviously that just incorporates additional civic pride, enhances workplace culture so that they don't have to worry about bringing stuff. They can just enjoy themselves, and we can connect on a more personal level during these events. So
You can always reach out through the Community Engagement Commission and have the citizens bring some food.
absolutely, that would be fantastic.
Well, but we might want to be careful. You never know what that might be included. Go ahead. Mayor Pro Tem, you had a question.
Kyle, how many employees typically attend one of our?
Oh
Get-togethers?
gosh, rough estimate. 80 too much? Did 80 attend the barbecue last year?
count the in and the outs, not at one time necessarily. But
And that-
coming in as their shifts allow.
And that includes families too?
Generally, no.
I would say that more with families,
Okay.
meaning more attending with families.
Right, so probably more than 100, right? If you include the family?
Time, but throughout the duration of the event, sure.
My point by asking that question is I'm not so sure that 2,500 is even enough.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. This is-
Because I mean, if you want to set up a thing where you go to some party or you go to mini golfing or whatever, these things can add up pretty quickly. So to me, I would request, or I would just submit that I would probably double that to 5,000 so that the staff has plenty of wiggle room. If you want to go do something fun, if you want to go throw axes or whatever, you can do that without having to pinch pennies and asking someone to bring baked beans to the next event. So that's just my comment.
Excellent. Okay, if nothing further, Evan, we'll proceed to the next slide. So I touched on this a little bit at the outset. So our PD currently has a uniform allowance. It's collectively bargained and it is absolutely necessary. And it's dispersed through the payroll program at $450 twice a year. And that covers kind of top to bottom everything that they're going to need because they're wearing 8,000 different pieces of equipment at any given time. And so this is the city's recognition of that cost that they bear. And so the idea of recognizing other departments, so Public Works, Parks, we have 3 building inspectors that are out, code enforcement. We have all of these different positions that do require protective footwear that we don't currently compensate for. And this is, again, it's a pain of a growing city. It's nothing that we've ever really thought about. We have kind of taken the poll of some other entities that have recognized this and recognized that I think that this is a good idea and it's something that needs to be accounted for. And so really the proposal is to provide for up to $200 annually for eligible employees to purchase protective footwear. And this would be dispersed through the payroll process once a year. That way they are, we're not managing what they're purchasing. We trust that they're going to use this or not to purchase protective footwear, but we're recognizing the cost associated with that activity. With that, questions?
I would recommend you, I'm going to assume that you probably guys ever talked about this. I would recommend that you also propose to have some sort of budget for protective clothing.
And we do, yeah.
Okay, because I'm thinking about that. We may have somebody who is on a tractor is not going to be an issue, but if they're handling fertilizer or something like that.
Absolutely. And so the city issued vests and shirts that you see are purchased through the city. And so we have a uniform allowance that doesn't currently allow for protective footwear.
You see an advantage to having that?
Potentially. So I don't know that the city wants to be the arbiter of what a individual person or employee wants to choose as their protective footwear.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Kind of a similar question to the last one. I just wanted to see if $200 seems like it would be enough for the variety of jobs throughout the year that some of the folks that work for the streets, and there's different seasons, I guess I'm saying, and there may be more than one type of protective footwear that's needed depending on their job type.
There is, but there are also classes of footwear that will meet the needs of the 4 seasons of activity. And so the hope was to standardize this to the greatest extent possible so that we're not providing Public Works with 250 and they have to be steel toed, and Parks you have to be sneakers and maybe those are only 150. So
Mayor, I got Councilmember Spencer first, then Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Kind of along the same lines, I see the language here is provide for up to $200 annually. So is the intent is that just across the board everybody get 200, or what's the goal there?
Going for 2026 and beyond, the answer to that would be yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we would want to give them the option of going through the voucher process. If they've already picked something out, we would finish out 2025 to allow for them to go through the voucher process, and then February of each year going forward, we would process that through the payroll system.
Okay, and then just to follow up to that, do we have any issues with claims from employees who have injured their feet because they weren't wearing proper footwear?
Not that has come across my desk. I know that we have had dozens of inquiries about it, though.
I guess the reason for that question really would just go to, if we are going to be providing them with an allowance, that the assumption is that they are purchasing something that will properly protect their feet. Then if there was some sort of claim that came forward and they had this allowance, so my hope would be there would be something that would that would protect the city in that situation where, hey, we've been providing you with funds to wear proper footwear, but you haven't been using it or whatever.
And you hit the nail on the head. There would be language in the personnel manual to account for that.
Perfect.
We had Mayor Pro Tem, then Councilmember Kennedy.
Yeah, my question was almost exactly the same, is just making sure, obviously, there's a difference between needing and requiring. So if we were gonna do this, I would want to require that we're
Correct.
making sure that they are wearing it, if for no other reason to protect them, but also because, you know, this is so important.
Yeah, the language with the adoption of this would be to require.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. Is it being proposed that the individual would receive $200 every year?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
If we're going to utilize the dollar amount, of which I don't feel 200 is adequate when it comes to steel-toed shoes and stuff, because I've been supplied those for employees over the years, that they're going to buy that for the benefit of their job, they are reimbursed when the receipt comes to the city.
And we can certainly, that can be a consideration that we
Thank you.
allow it through the voucher process as well.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, next.
Next slide, please, Evan. Public Works procurement. This is a fun one that we do every time. And so we have a paragraph in our financial policy that specifically, it's an automatic update clause that the city Public Works procurement guidelines update as RCW's update. And so this is more of a memorialization of our last financial policy update was in 2023. We're now in 2025. There have been updates, so we are going to memorialize them here with the understanding that if in 2026 or 2027 they come back and update them again, we will automatically provide the update within the city as well. And so really the current policy mirrors RCW. Proposal is to remain the same, but we do have updates that are going to be included when we bring the resolution back for adoption that you will see. So obviously the idea is to streamline this process as much as possible because contractors have enough issues trying to deal with all of the different bid specs and requirements. If they then have to deal with a unicorn Public Works procurement structure, that's going to make things more difficult for them. Not to say that would eliminate them, but we want to make the process as easy as possible for them. And that's the idea.
Voices carry in here.
Any question on Public Works?
Doesn't look like it.
Next slide, please, Evan. And so just a collection of updates that you'll see, just really small red lines where we are including in approval authority the Public Works Director because we didn't have that in 2023 during our last update. We are updating the Planning Director to the Community Development Director. So really just housekeeping changes to reflect what is now reality when it wasn't back in 2023. We're eliminating the reference to the Finance Committee. There was three references in the financial policy to that. Obviously, the Finance Committee does not exist. Finance Committee is council. So, and then update the approval authority for travel authorization. So the idea behind including the city administrator in the approval authority is that the mayor and the mayor pro tem have full-time jobs, and it shouldn't be expected of us that we call, they're just going to come running to sign something. So we have city administrator on staff that can execute these administrative actions to keep the business of the city running. So, and then, yeah, just different terms to update with RCW. Currently, we have a professional services section of our procurement policy. RCW calls that out as person. So personal and professional services is what we'll change that to. And that's purely just window dressing. So next slide, please. So pivoting over to the personnel manual updates, we've talked a little bit about what is eventually going to be the iteration of the vehicle allowance, the protective footwear allowance. So we will include corresponding language in the personnel manual update based on what is eventually updated or included in the financial policy update. And so And so we touched on that earlier. We have a recommendation to include Christmas Eve in the city's calendar of observed holidays. We have a provision that really just calls out the idea of individuals simultaneously holding employment and then potentially being elected a council position. That cannot happen simultaneously. If you are elected and you happen to be employed at that time, you would have to step down from your position to accept the role of an elected official. You wouldn't be able to serve in both capacities. Obviously, massive conflict of interest there. So, and then just various state law updates that again have happened since the last update and clarifications. And so this is just this captures maybe the majority. There are others that you will see when the personnel manual comes back to update by resolution exactly what those are. And those are really small administrative additions based on state guidelines and RCWs.
Kyle, just real quick, again, for the public's knowledge, how many paid city holidays do we have?
11?
So this would be 12 then.
I believe so. I would need to verify that number.
Are there others other than Christmas Eve that we should be thinking about adding?
At this point, I would say no.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, any further questions? If not, I guess we'll wrap this one up.
So we'll wrap this up. So based on the feedback, I will put together some language to address what we think might be able to reach a consensus. Share that with council well in advance of the May 6th meeting. And if there's any feedback, we can have that discussion during the resolution portion and seek consensus at that time. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
All right, next up is our Winter Glow workshop. I'm gonna hand this to Mark to get us kicked off.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. And this is going to be a contributions from several staff members, at least to confirm different details. And then I believe we have at least one member of the Winter Glow Foundation board here. If any questions arise that need to be answered by a board member. If you'll recall, I don't remember if it was the last January meeting or the first February meeting, thereabouts. We mentioned to you that we had been approached by the foundation board indicating that there was some turmoil within the board and they were potentially looking not to do Winter Glow going forward. And so since that briefing, we have been specifically asked or a proposal has been made for the city to acquire some of the material and capital associated with the current Winter Glow Spectacular. And we'll get into the details of that as we go forward. And really what we want to accomplish tonight is just to kind of give you some background into how Winter Glow from the city's perspective has been funded, and then what some projections of funding going forward would look like if the city were in fact to bring Winter Glow under its operational management. And so if we, so Evans moved on and everybody knows, I think, what Winter Glow is, but for the benefit of those who may not, this is an annual event that's hosted or it has been hosted in Orchard Park since 2019. It consists of hundreds of lighted displays and welcomes visitors between late November and early January. And it's currently organized and operated by the Winter Glow Spectacular Foundation, which is a 501c3. And the setup and tear down currently are largely done through volunteer labor. And so if we can move to the next slide, Evan. So this is where the discussion with the foundation board comes into play based on the conversations that we've had, our staff has had, some of the things that have occurred or are occurring. As you can see here, some key board members are stepping away. There's a dwindling volunteer base. There's a question about the partnership with Spokane County to provide some of the volunteer labor. And there are rising material costs, and we have seen that in other sectors pretty much across the board. So in late January 2025, the acting director of Parks and Rec at the time, Derek Kosanke, got an email from the board indicating that they had taken a vote, and that vote was that they were going to offer the displays, the containers, and other items to the city for $25,000. And that included the use of the name. And so we'll talk about that specifically later. Staff is not recommending that we pay for those things. However, we will talk more about that later. If you can go to the next slide, Evan. If we look back, and like I mentioned earlier, Winter Glow has been in Orchard Park since 2019. We don't have a good sense of the numbers prior to 2022, so we provided them from 2022, going back to 2019. So we provided them from 2022 going forward. And you can see there's been some direct contribution of material and services over those years. We would expect for there to be another of something in 5, although we've not gotten to the setup yet. Although council did at its last meeting approve the request for $25,000 from the lodging tax award process. And so you can see there over those 4 years, a total of approximately $100,000 has been contributed from the city to the foundation for the production of the spectacular. Based on some of the back and forth that we've had with the board members since this offer has been made, we wanted also to present to you some information about what it may look like to take this on based on how it has been produced up to this point, with costs that would be borne exclusively by the city. So if you can go to the next slide, Evan, and this is where I'll ask if Derek or Jen or anyone from Parks wants to help clarify these numbers. I'll be happy to have you do that. But in our discussions, essentially, the estimate is that on an annual basis, it takes approximately 1,770 hours to set up, manage, and tear down. And that's, primarily in November. The bulk of the hours is dedicated to set up, and then lesser amount to tear down. But in total, it's about 1,770. And so if you look over what the city staff is assigned to do over November, December, and January, with the exception of a handful of hours in November, the staff is completely allocated. And so what that means is we don't have additional capacity to assign to Winter Glow unless we either bring new capacity in or stop doing something that those current employees are already allocated to do, some kind of maintenance activity, whatever it is that they're allocated for, that something would have to be taken away. And so what that means is we would be faced with bringing staff on. We're not assuming any volunteer contributions. That doesn't mean we would not be pursuing them, but we're not expecting any volunteer contributions at this point. And so we based the costs that you're about to see on that assumption. And so, Evan, if you go to the next slide, and what that looks like going forward, we're forecasting here with a modest rate of inflation that is applied to each of these years. For those materials and services, and most of this information is coming from the discussions that we've had with Winter Glow on how much material they're buying each year to either add new displays or just to repair what's there. You can see the materials and services there. That does include electricity. There's a surcharge for the months that Winter Glow is happening at the park. There's extra electricity bill that happens, and some other things like that. And then you see the labor, which is based on that 1,770 hour number. If you annualize that, That's where that labor charge is coming from. You would plus it up with benefits and some other things that would be required if we brought a city employee into the mix to perform that. And thus you see, so a comparable 4-year to 4-year bottom line number, if we were to take this on as a city over the next 4 years, we would estimate that it would be approximately $600,000 to do it as is, or as it has been, rather. And so that's essentially the forecast. Before I move on, do any of the Parks and Rec folks or any of the Winter Glow Foundation board members want to correct anything I've presented thus far, provide any additional context to the council or anything like that? Looks like Jen has some comments.
Actually, I don't. I obviously we've had some deep discussion as staff on this, and this tells the story from our perspective.
And so with that, staff doesn't have a recommendation. This was intended to be a discussion for the council. We recognize this is a popular event. It's something that people in town look forward to. It draws a lot of foot traffic into Orchard Park annually. But as you can see, it's not inexpensive to produce. And so if the city were to take this on as part of its regular programming, there would need to be some additional resource allocation considered by the council. And so with that, Evan, if you can go to the next slide, we're at the point where it's time for questions, comments, and discussion.
Councilmember Van Orman, then Mayor Pro Tem.
Mark, what is the, I know that they've been utilizing the correction agency. How much, you probably had that up there and I didn't see it. How much was that cost for the corrections to do that?
I don't know that there's a cost associated with it. That it has about, and Mark may have some other information. It was about 10% of the number of hours of that 1,770. It was about 10% of that was contributed by the Geiger unit folks. And if Mark wants to provide some context, come up to the podium and add it.
Step my bounds. It cost us as a group for the correction from Geiger. They would give us a team of 6, and it cost us $400 a day for a team of 6. And we had them out there for 2 weeks, for 10 days then. So basically it cost about $4,000. And then the tear down, we had them out there for 5 days. So another 8,000, a little over 8,000 then, because we had we did have 2 groups. That's right. Yeah. So 8,000 for the Geiger group, and that's setup and takedown.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, for the guard is what we had, transportation.
All right, so we had, so Wendy, Councilmember Van Orman, if that answers your question, we'll go to Mayor Pro Tem and then whoever's.
Yeah, you did.
So, a couple of thoughts about this. One, I think this is important, especially in the winter months, to have something like this that draws people to the city. And I would go so far as to say that I would create, or I would support creating a special budget fund specifically for this particular event. My only caveat to that is that I do wonder if it's in the wrong spot. And the reason why I say that is not because I don't like Orchard Park and not because I don't like the River District. I love Orchard Park, love the River District. But I do think that if it would be feasible, and I don't know that it would be, someone's going to have to tell me, I think it would almost be better for the city's economy to have it in Pavilion Park. And the reason why I say that is because if we're going to sink $150,000, $160,000 into this every year, I would want our businesses to benefit from that. And if we're getting a ton of people coming in from outside of the area, I would much rather have them or force them to go through the heart of the city where they could stop at McDonald's or Fieldhouse or Palenque or the new restaurant at Trailhead. If we put them in the River District, there are only so many businesses around that area. And I feel like right now, if we kept it in Orchard Park, you could actually come into the city, go to this event and leave without passing one business. And so to me, it would make more sense to funnel people through our business area if the city is going to step up and fund this each and every year. Those are my thoughts.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Winter Glow is such an asset to the city. When it started many years ago, the idea it would be small, start out. I really envisioned where we are today is when it first started. I felt because of the growth, it was catch on, the city would like it, it brings citizens into the area, it gets people out of their homes, we can congregate things that sort there. You look at the dollar amount, it's a staggering dollar amount, but still, for me, I think that it's a hell of a return on our investment. If we were to look at that type of dollar amount, now what it does for the city, I think is tremendous. It's like the intrinsic value that a golf course brings to us. This is intrinsic value that brings benefit to the citizens of Liberty Lake or something like that. What I also envision where the money could come from is that the hotel motel tax. I mean, let me ask the question, how much did we bring in this last year? Was $100 and some $1,000?
I wouldn't say brought in, that was a cumulative, I think.
Right, cumulative. So that's the first thing I think about is that, well, where could we get the money without cutting services elsewhere? So what would happen is that, now I'm sure businesses would come forward and say, well, hold it, we've been getting a big chunk of that. But you know what? They're in a position to go and get additional funding elsewhere. Where we could take those funds and put it towards this and perpetuate what we've been able to do. Because I think we owe a service to all of the volunteers. Not just the monetary, but the volunteers who put time and effort into this. And to consider that this might not move forward, I would be very sad if that happened.
Councilmember Kurtz. I have a few questions. Going back to Mark, if you're able to come back up, I had a question for you. And maybe everybody else knows this and I didn't quite catch it, but you talked about the cost for Geiger to come out. Did they do everything over those weeks or were other additional hours needed from other volunteers?
Oh, and we had other volunteers out there. Yes, yeah, definitely, right? We were out there every day. Yes. These ladies can attest to it. We were there every day.
That's
what I thought. So Andy, if I can provide just a little bit. So based on the hours that we got, the Geiger crew hours were about 140 of the 1770.
Yeah.
So some of that's on the takedown. So 240, 250 of the 1770 are the Geiger crew.
Okay, because I was, when you were talking, you talked about them being out there for 2 weeks, 6 dudes, guys, girls, whoever. Which made it seem like it might be more hours than what we were talking about with the 10%.
Yeah, it could be. But for the most part, without them, we wouldn't have been able to put it on, to be honest with you.
So now that was the question that I had for you. So
Okay, am I done? Can I be excused?
You can be, I'm not in charge, but I'm sure she'll excuse you. Mark. Can I?
What, go
I had
ahead,
a
and then
couple
we'll go
more,
to,
is that okay?
okay, and then we'll go to Councilmember Wall when you're done.
So I think that there's some other opportunities to support this. I too would be very sad to see it go away. I think it is something that people literally see from the freeway and they come to find out what Winter Glow is all about. So I would like to do what we can to keep it without reducing services across the city. So thoughts I had while people were talking were seasonal staff. How could we do that? If there's sponsorships for the cost of it, if there's sponsors for the labor, there are a number of companies that have go volunteer in your community for a day and like you get to go do that. And I wonder if there's some opportunities for that. So those aren't, I guess, necessarily questions, but just thoughts that I'm having as people are talking. And then regarding it being in Orchard Park, I hadn't thought about it being somewhere else, But I do think that there are a number of businesses that you do have to go by to get to Orchard Park. The ones in the Knoll, the ones that are right across the street from the park itself. And then even if you come at it from the other direction, I think that there's some businesses there. And I have heard people in the River District say that sometimes it feels like they're not a part of the city. So I think this is one way for, hopefully that's not my alarm, it sounds like mine. Okay. This is one way for them to be connected to the rest of the city as well. So I think sponsors and things like that would be something that we would need to look at. But is the ask still to pay the $25,000 for the materials? And then my question would be, where does that money go?
Yeah, so the board's proposal to the city based on a vote at its January meeting was that we purchase the materials, the containers, and the word in the email was et cetera. We would have to clarify what that meant. And the name essentially for the 25 grand. The recommendation of staff is that if you go back, Evan, to that fourth slide, if you look at that history of contributions, the staff's position is that that has been paid for through those contributions.
One clarifying question before we go to Linda, unless you have another one. What I didn't see in that, where it was the $10,000 per year additional donation that the city made, and then it was 20,000 last year. Is that in here? And we just don't see it? What?
It's both pieces combined.
Oh, okay. All right. So the 10,000 per year and then 20,000 last year is included in these numbers. Okay. Sorry, that wasn't clear. Annie, you said you had another one for, okay. Councilmember Ball, you're next.
I wanted to ask Mark Saba. So, I mean, I'm curious because I didn't know this was happening. The board, the Spectacular Foundation Board, why have they decided they don't want to do this anymore?
Go on, you can come on up.
And what happened is, it's gotten so big.
Pull your mic down, yeah.
Short people unite.
Ah.
It's gotten so big, we are burned out. And so we're not folding as far as Winter Glow Spectacular. We're staying, that's why we're selling that stuff. If we don't sell it to you, we'll sell it to somebody else. And we're gonna downsize. We're still gonna do Collie Park by the hospital. And we're looking at smaller parks because it's gotten way over our heads. I got involved in it back before it came out here. It was downtown and we got the 3D animals.
Spokane?
Yeah, it was downtown, no, yeah, Spokane, Riverfront Park. And then it was out at the fairgrounds and it was at some other places first. Rich Riley's the one who saved it from going away completely from the guy before that. And he also is the one who got all the destroyed 3D animals from the windstorm in 2015. And I was the one who ended up repairing them because they said, who works with fabric? Well, that's not what I meant, but, and so some of that, he's been really good about getting those displays and he makes a lot of those displays, but he's done. It's just too much. It's too much to handle and the amount of people we need. I did a lot and some of the other board members do a lot for trying to get companies to volunteer. And one of Rich's hopes was that like Collie Park, it is smaller, it's a couple of acres, but there are some local businesses down there that they have like owned up to, this is our display, we'll set it up every year. And that's what he was kind of hoping out here, that they see this thing growing. And we do have some groups like the Girl Scouts that do these leaping arches that are along the walkway. They come out every year and do that. We've had the Mormon Church help and they put up those big mega trees. And so some of them, and then you don't have to teach something every year because there's instructions for all those displays. And so there's, you know, tons of displays in those containers. Actually, that's not even everything because I have rented a storage spot with all the animals and some of the other displays. So there's a lot of displays. But that's what we're looking at. We're not just going to take that money and fold. You know, if we were to fold, you donate it out, as you know, as a 501(c)(3), but that's to help us then move on and look at some other smaller parks and stuff.
Before we come back to Councilmember Kennedy, is there anybody? Oh, I see Councilmember Spencer.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, lots of thoughts swirling around. This is something I think it has been really great for the city. Looking at the bottom line, it's going to be a pretty difficult business case unless we can recruit some of these volunteer options um, and get some of those sponsorships from businesses and get some buy-in, but at this moment we don't have all of that. I guess the first question is if we don't do the move forward with the proposal, but we still want to do this, we would have to start from scratch and call it something different, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, to Mayor Pro Tem Cargill's comments regarding the location, I'm open to looking at the different options depending on what type of response we get from businesses. One thought I had as well that years ago, and I don't know whether some of these displays came from there, but the golf course out at Qualchan used to have a drive-through display, so you'd actually go in your cars. I'm curious as to what the option would be to put this out on Trailhead, something to that effect, and it could be something where people either walk it or take their golf carts or something. I don't know. But it seems like we've got several different really good spaces for something like this, whether we're going to keep it at Orchard Park or perhaps expand it. I know there were some different folks, out on the community page wondering, hey, when are we going to get our, display over on this side of the freeway? And so, obviously, any sort of expansion as far as that goes is going to lead to additional patronage in the local businesses, regardless of where it's at. So I'd be interested to see kind of what the pulse might be from the local businesses, particularly the ones that would be able to take advantage of the increased traffic, what their thoughts might be in kicking back some percentage of those proceeds that they're going to be getting from the additional business.
Thanks. Oh, you want to?
May I comment on
Yes,
that?
absolutely.
So the challenge, at least for this year, is we don't have the infrastructure for power down at Trailhead. We have zero power down there. Pavilion, same situation. We would have to do something major up there to pull power everywhere that we would need it. We have customized Orchard to this point to do that, specifically for Winter Glow. So it really is the most ideal place probably for this next upcoming season. We didn't budget for costs to, move power, add power or whatever. And then as far as golf carts on the golf course, we don't allow carts on the golf course during the winter because it's either frozen, you'll kill the grass, or it's muddy and mucky. So it would be walking only. I don't know, but again, there's no power down there at all. So.
Okay, real quick before we go for another round, Councilmember Dunn, we haven't heard from you. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I really appreciate the observation of staff in trying to estimate in amounts what the burden of this would be to the city. And I'll refer to that burden principally as administrative. The volunteers, I'm going to say, and with the most cherished gesture, the volunteers who have brought life to this, it's people. And so for the city, I would say to continue on with this, it would require the addition of people. Real, I'll call it FTEs, persistent, recurring cost to the city that I don't know that we can really right now justify, especially not in the immediate short term. I'm going to say within the next 18 months. So I value this. This has been a really important and useful and valuable and program in our city, but without the people to try and bring it forward, it's really challenging for me to foresee it going forward in its current scale. I'd really be interested in scaling this thing, I would say, to half or a quarter of its reasonably previously asserted size and understanding what the impact would be administratively in people in order to present that. So I guess for me personally, I would say I'd like to consider something, I'm going to say significantly smaller than what has been. and that the city could consider supporting that.
Thank you. So we've got Councilmember Ball, then I don't know which one of you are next. Okay, Councilmember Ball and then Councilmember Kurtz, then Van Orman.
Well, even before Jan got up there, I believe Orchard Park is the best place for it still. And there are businesses over there that will benefit from that. I mean, there's a lot of new ones, you know, Emery's, I mean, there's just a bunch of new stuff over there. But I mean, what about sponsorships? I mean, could we get like a big player like a Vista? I mean, they're making money off it with the electrical bill. Could they be a sponsor?
So I think, so what I want, I think we should try to avoid, just my personal opinion, is getting too much into the weeds tonight.
Mm.
We've got a number, which to me is kind of a max, right? And then we chip away at that as we go. You know, I would hope that maybe some of the previous volunteers might be willing to, if some of the other burden is taken off of those people, maybe hop in and, you know, try to help with sponsorships. I even talked to Mark Saba a little bit about, well, maybe not Geiger, but you know, there's lots of people out there who need community service hours as part of their DUI sentence or something. You know, they probably don't need a guard next to them. I think if we discuss the max, you know, I think getting into location, obviously Jenny answered that question, but location and sponsorships and volunteer hours can come later as we chip away and bring that number down. Again, just my opinion. I don't want us to get too much into the weeds and trying to solve all the problems tonight. So Councilmember Kurtz. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, and when we've discussed in our board meeting about, you know, backing off and all that, I know a lot of us, including myself, are still very willing to help and volunteer because I've worked on that in business displays and repairing, and that's kind of my niche. So we're still willing to help that way. The other thing is that I've thought as we've done this, is that we put signs out with different companies' names. But what I didn't understand, and I don't understand why we do that, from the sense of it's in front of these different displays, but they didn't really pay for that display. They gave money. So, I mean, my thought was if you get a company that gives a decent amount, you put that name in front of that display, and or if they set it up, instead of just scattering all these names out that gave money. And so, and then if you can get them to take ownership to setting it up, you know, and if you do that every year, you can get that up there really slick. You know, every year we're training new volunteers, or if the weather's bad, which they don't come. You know, so there's a lot of us behind, still helping, because I love Winter Glow, and you know, I'm just blocks away, and I love looking at it and seeing all the people, the thousands that come through is just amazing. So, but we can't do it right now. I mean, all of us are aging out. Even though I'm going to be 74, I still love Winter Glow and making the displays and climbing around. So
Appreciate the input. Councilmember Kurtz, then Councilmember Van Orman.
I have, I think, a question and a potential suggestion. So I think my question is, you mentioned that there are other groups that other parks that you might look at doing this, and if you don't sell it to us, you would look at selling it to somebody else. So I guess my question is, how long do we have to make a decision before you do move on to somebody else? Okay. So I guess my request or suggestion or idea would be, if we were to take maybe over the next month, if city staff could get us some ideas about whether there are people that would sponsor some private and public partnership with this, and what the logistics might look like of getting some of that volunteer support, because I like the idea of keeping it. And I like the idea of having some transition of the knowledge base so that we could potentially take it on. I don't know that I'm willing to commit to 5 years. I'd be willing to explore it for like a year or two, see how the first year goes, see what we can build on for the second year, and then go from there versus making like a buy it commitment, if that makes sense. I think those are some of my thoughts about maybe how we can figure out how much it would cost us. I don't know if I want to scale it down to a quarter, because I think people like the big thing. And I like the big thing. And the kids like the big thing. But there has to be people to do it, and then I understand that. So I'm wondering if there can be some research done over the next couple weeks to figure out if we would have the people to do it.
I'll let Mark weigh in on that before we go to the next person.
So we can do some research. I think it's almost impossible to answer that question, which is why we're not factoring in volunteer hours to this forecast. Obviously, if we were able to secure committed volunteers or corporate partnerships, it would take this number and reduce it by some factor. We can absolutely do some Q&A out there to find out if there's some general interest. I don't know how specific that information will be. Because we're not asking for people to commit. We're asking, would you consider committing? But we can absolutely ask those questions and try to put some framework around what that may look like.
Councilmember Van Orman.
Well, having done a few festivities myself, I'm looking at one, where do we store it? Do we have our warehouse with everything in it? But the location truthfully should be all the way through Liberty Lake. It would include all the businesses, and you'd get a pretty good thing of whatever neighborhood you're in. You're going to have Liberty Lake lit up like no other. But it's a matter of getting the community together and volunteer. I've done the Easter egg hunt for the last 25 years. And, you know, one by one, you start getting burned out. Totally understand. But it's a fabulous program. We just have to figure out how to do it so it's not just on the city staff. And it can help.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, because really the recreation coordinator is a staff of one, and he's already full with all of our other events. And to jump into this already in April, I don't know how he could do that. And he would have support from me. It would be really hard for us. If we've talked about, if this does happen, our goal would just to be a scaled down version, just to get it out this next year. That would be a very positive goal for us, but it will be a challenge. I think as time goes on and we can maybe build our recreation staff a little bit, if we know that that is going to be part of our one of our many events, you know, we can adapt and budget and change infrastructure, add power, plan differently, go through the town. You know, Greenstone used to do displays right at the Meadowood monuments, if you remember. Maybe there's some potential to, like you say, spread it out a little bit and strategically place where we do have power. We do have power in medians. I don't know if we can put lighted items in medians or not. There are so many unknowns, you know, but it will take us some time to find answers to those questions. So.
From a staff perspective, though, I just want everybody to understand that we have to prepare as though there is no one other than staff. And so in order to answer the question, could there be, we would only know that once we started executing. Now, of course, and like we just talked about, we can try as best as possible to understand on the front end what that pool may look like. But if the city agrees to take this under the city's umbrella, the staff has to be ready and resourced to execute it at whatever level the council says this is how we want to produce it.
We've got Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilmember Spencer, and I'm looking at the clock.
Well, I appreciate Jen, you jumping up to say that, because actually that was one of my questions, is whether it's even possible to do something like this. So thank you for that. When I talk, and I know we're not getting into the weeds on this, but when I talked about the Orchard Park versus Pavilion Park, I just ran a quick Apple Maps directions from, if you were coming in from Spokane to go to this, it doesn't take you past one business. Just takes you on Mission, past Selkirk, up into Orchard Park, and then back over to get on the freeway back via Barker. And so that's why I brought that up.
Well, they could go to Wendy's and Dutch Bros.
Right, exactly,
in the
but those
valley.
aren't in the
valley.
city.
I know, yeah, in the valley.
So, I mean, that's why I brought that up. I do wonder, for the Winter Glow folks, have you guys approached any of the lawn care companies that do Christmas light displays?
They won't donate their time.
Okay, but I'm wondering, instead of us having to hire city staff, if we could contract out with, you know, a Sensky or the other ones. And then they would be responsible for storing it, obviously. We could create some sort of contract with them that allows them to set up these displays in Orchard Park or wherever the case might be. And maybe that's a way to make this happen. City would still pay for it, obviously, but then we wouldn't have to worry about city staff time other than for the purposes of executing the contract.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's just a thought.
Interesting. All right, got Councilmember Spencer, then Councilmember Kurtz.
Thank you. I also appreciate Jen, you mentioning what we're looking at here. I think one question I would have, given the fact that if we were to take this on, I think we would want to have a little bit more details as to what type of handoff Winter Glow is expecting for this first season. And I'm curious whether there might be an opportunity to go in 50-50, so to speak, to allow, if we are going to hire additional staff or seasonal staff or something, so that they can walk through it with the existing group to get a really good feel for what is the layout look like, what is the setup look like, and then obviously, the goal is going to be to in the interim recruit as many organizations and businesses to own portions of the display, whatever it is that we envision there, so that if we were to have one last season where at least Winter Glow is at least doing 50% of the work, to where now we can do a proper handoff, because I just don't know what that's going to look like if they just say, hey, here's for 25 grand, here's all the stuff. And I understand there will be several folks that have been doing it and are dedicated to doing it. But as far as having that buy-in, that proper handoff, so to speak.
Thank you. I think I've got Councilmember Kurtz next. And again, I'm looking at the clock. We still have a lot of council business and 2 more workshops to go tonight.
And I was just going to say, I think that considering what it would look like in whatever you maybe bring back about what the possibility is for some seasonal staff complemented with maybe a suggestion like Mayor Pro Tem just brought forward. So maybe thinking outside the box about and getting a little creative about how we could look at doing this. I like Councilmember Spencer's idea of maybe, going in half, if that's something the city and Winter Glow Foundation would consider. It sounds like there's a lot of interest in keeping it going. I think it's just the how we get there. And I think that we are a pretty creative group of people. Generally, I find city staff to be that way. I think the people that have been putting this on for the last several years are very creative and resourceful as well. So I think that this is sort of the group of community that would be able to put this on together and keep it going. And that would be my hope. But
Marcia, could you come to the microphone so it picks up on the recording? Thanks.
Have a board meeting early on, and that was one of the options that the city asked us about, and the board chose not to go 50-50. They wanted to sell everything, and there's a lot of stuff there. It's a ton of stuff, so it's a decent value as far as that goes. But certain people that have served a long time and were the really ones that brought Winterglow here have no desire to be part of it anymore, and we've lost some important board members, and the dynamics have changed a lot in the last few months.
Thank you.
Okay, I should say too, I did say we would like to be open to carrying this option beyond next week or whatever when we meet, but I would of course have to get that okay by the board too.
Thank you. Councilmember Kennedy,
Mayor, looking at the clock, I'd like to make a motion. We extend our meeting to 9:30.
we have a second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. We are extended to 9:30.
That's just one quick follow-up. To Winterglow staff, what happens to the displays and the equipment if we don't make a decision?
After Rich took it over like 12 years ago, he built a building on his property, called the Funny Farm, out west, and he had it all stored there. We've enlarged since then with some displays, and that's his feeling is he will take it back there. And for time being, until we sell some of it off and not use anything or use at another park, a smaller park. But I do know, see, my hope too is, because I love Winterglow, is that, you know, I want you to be successful, and I've put a lot of time into the displays and really happy to see all the people. So I couldn't just dump it on you guys. You know, I would be there involved in it. I can't put in the hours like I have in the past. But just to say, to get people to hire to do it, and say like a lighting company, we start working out there in like October, and we're out there September, and we start looking to see what's damaged and working on the lights. Some of them I fixed with ribbons that I know they're out and need to be fixed and stuff. So I don't know how to do a lawn company with that, but again, to get some volunteers, like commitments from companies, I tried that. We did get commitments financially from some companies, but if they could also take the pride in coming out and setting it up, you don't need a ton. If you get them all out there focused on that and know it, they come back the next year, it's a piece of cake. So, yeah, and I know that there's others that are still, you know, and I've got tons of maps and notes and stuff as far as displays and that kind of stuff. It's the electrical and stuff, it's beyond me, but Rich is willing to be a consultant from out, he's out in the West End, and he knows all that electrical stuff, not my thing. But yeah, there is a lot of plugins, electricity.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of interest. There's just some more questions that need to be answered. So hopefully that's coming across. All right. So I guess we're moving on now to our joint workshop with the Community Engagement Commission. So if those of you who are still in the audience on community engagement, if we want to. Oh, Mark's stealing the microphone. There we doing. Come up to the front row, or bring, if you need more seats, we can bring some up. There are only 4 of you guys here tonight. Robin, first row.
Yeah.
And just to kick this off, council, this is the commission has requested at least an annual workshop to kind of collaborate on what the commission has been doing, what council's expectations are. And tonight, I think specifically, the goal is to, at least, if nothing else is done, kind of talk about the next town hall timing, those kinds of things, and then whatever other business the commission may want to address beyond that. So with that, I'll turn it over to CEC.
Hey, this feels like a town hall meeting right now. Thanks for having us. So I think the first question out there is the subject of a town hall meeting. Everything, it seems like, is still under the transparency conversation, and just having a town hall meeting in general fulfills that, we think. Seems like the hot button topic and that was brought up at my brief report during the last meeting is the library, the town square park, all of what that looks like right now, and all the new pieces that are coming in and what realistically can be done. So I think our first question is that what you would want this town hall to be about? Do you have something else in mind? If so, how can we help? And then we can go down quickly with, you know, is that in the splash? Are we doing mailers? What do you want that to look like, etc. So I think that's probably our first little introduction to this, and I can pass it around and we can figure this out as best we can.
Don't everybody jump at once. Okay, we got, wow. Okay, Councilmember Ball, then Kurtz, then Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I was thinking about this ahead of time, and I think that would be the ideal topic is the whole library, community center, town square, etc. I think that would be the ideal topic. I think that is what everyone is talking about.
Okay.
Oh, and also, where do you think this should be again this year at Trailhead or?
Those are logistics that we can work
Yeah,
out.
I mean, as
Okay, Trailhead. Okay.
and I would say in general, unless anything needs to be wildly different, probably very similar in a lot of ways. And again, we could get into the nitty gritty as we break down further.
Less expensive food.
Right, just less of it. We do think, as we, from the very outset, we need to be very thoughtful about shaping the questions that we ask, the statements that we make in invitations, so that we manage the expectation of those who are in attendance, to the point that they know what the discussion is about, they know what is sort of inside the discussion, and what, just because it is so easy for a town hall to wander. And that is a kind statement about what that can happen. So we do want to shape expectations in such a way that people come prepared to have a discussion about about the topic of the evening.
What would help with?
What is that noise?
Somebody's phone's ringing. Is it Mark's? Okay.
Is it
Oh.
Mark's?
Sorry. Sorry, go ahead, Robin.
Trying to turn it.
Go ahead.
Sure.
I think when especially because we know of the importance in the past of the library, we know what we had done at the library when it was planned to be a potential, an option to be in the Legacy Church. The one thing that really created that was the interaction, the displays, those types of things help to open up that communication and two-way conversation. So it can be very, I think, beneficial to both parties, the attendees and the mayor council.
I'm open for whatever you guys want, honestly. I was kind of visioning, kind of a 5-tier, survey type, or 5, option survey. One being the, existing legacy, church for the library. The number 2 option would be just a library standalone at Town Square. Number 3 would be the library and a community center. And then number 4 would be library, community center, and the farmer's market type of building. And then the 5th one would be all 3 of them plus a pool, because the pool's been brought up in the past.
Yeah.
Now, with asking of all these questions, what's the one question we're going to get, how much is it going to cost? And that's where, that's where the stumbling block, I think, is going to happen. So that's just my thoughts. So whatever you guys would like, we'll follow up.
Okay, I think we had Councilmember Kurtz next.
So I'm curious, what were we talking about doing the next town hall?
Yeah, that's.
Is that
the
what we're
question?
talking about?
Well, schedule and topic, I think, because my fear is that we won't have the information we need to have the town hall, depending on what the topic is.
Yes, so I love the idea of doing a town hall in the library. I just don't think we're ready yet because we don't have the information for them. So in order for it to be productive, I agree with everything that you guys are saying about having something to show them, having something specific, having something for them to weigh in on. And I would like to consider 2 town halls, and please don't get mad at me because it is late at night. But I'm wondering if we do one soon on Winter Glow and how we could generate community involvement in keeping this tradition alive. I wonder if that is a smaller, more concise community development type of thing to do in the next month, 2 months, while we work on getting something ready for the library piece when we actually have the information to present to the community on it. So.
Gotcha. All right, I have Mayor Pro Tem next.
So I was thinking along the same lines as Councilmember Kurtz. I think it's going to be really difficult to convince people to come inside over summer to do a town hall meeting. So my thought, and again, this may be crazy and we can dismiss it right away, is that perhaps we do these outside. And perhaps we do one in Orchard Park to talk about Winter Globe, thank you. And then maybe we do one at Town Square or in Pavilion Park to talk about the library. And the issue with doing things outside has always been, well, if we have a majority of the council, then we've got to have, all the equipment set up and we've got to have cameras and recording and everything like that. So perhaps what we do is we divide it up to where we only have 3 council members at each one. And then that way we don't have to worry about the recording and all the equipment that we would have to bring to make this happen. We do it at one of the pavilions at the park, and then maybe it's at the other pavilion at Pavilion Park or something like that. So I just get nervous about doing things in the evening during the summer, because if it's warm and nice, people don't want to come inside.
I got a quick question. Did we record the last one?
We did.
We did?
The town hall?
Yeah.
I believe we recorded it. We did not live stream it.
Yeah.
Or we did not stream it.
Okay, because it was Trailhead. I wasn't sure if we had the equipment there for it. I never didn't pay
I
attention
think we
to
had the
that.
owl there.
Yes.
We did. Okay. All right, didn't even see it. Councilmember Kennedy.
I'm certainly in favor of having a town hall, and I'm certainly in favor of having it where we had it before. And I'm not concerned about, I understand what you're saying, and people who want to get out, things of sort here. But our history, we have to look back at our history. It doesn't matter what we bring up. We only get the same people that come in time and time again. Okay? It's very, very difficult to get new people there, not unless they're really interested in it. You got to remember that the city council recently voted that the majority voted that we're going to give this expansion library community center to the citizens. They're going to make this decision. And my concern is that if we give too many choices, it's not going to make it. We're dead in the water. I've seen it in the past where we've done that over the years. We give too many options to the public and they get confused. And especially when I start hearing about just a library, no community center. Folks, community center is what was driving this for a new library. So I'm concerned about if we start getting into, should we have it, shouldn't we have it? Just too many options for the citizens. I think it's great to have it over where we've had it before.
Yeah, I think the logistics of where can be determined probably at a later time. I think the more important thing is topic at this point and when.
Yeah.
Go ahead. were you gonna
Just
jump
quickly,
in?
I would say there was a lot of the first town hall meeting that had really wonderful educational moments. And the city academy has been really a nice new change, I think, the way we've done that. And presenting that at this event, we could learn more about the realistic opportunities or where we're at now, that sort of thing, as opposed to maybe here's all the choices you get to choose at this event. Maybe it's an educational opportunity. And again, we might not be ready for certain pieces of that. Maybe it is an event with multiple, again, like our last town hall meeting had multiple topics. There could be displays that are available if there's a a point where that makes sense. There could be education about the different topics. I'm just thinking maybe it isn't just one thing we're not ready for. Maybe it's another opportunity to get a little further and have more engagement, and then we can do something with that. So that's just a thought.
All right. Everybody's getting kind of quiet with the late hour. One before we come back for a second, Councilmembers Dunn, Van Orman, Spencer, anything?
I'd say Winter Glow is a very early topic and one we have probably more information to deal with as a town hall than the library and its effects. So I think it's a very good idea, Annie, to try and assert that as a town hall topic.
Councilmember Van Orman, do you have any comments?
I'm going to agree with Councilmember Annie Kurtz. I do think that we need to have two different topics. We've got lots of things happening within the city and we need the community to get involved in what those are. No better place than our community engagement crew. So.
And then Councilmember Spencer, before we move back for seconds.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I agree. And I think considering that conversation that we just had about the Winter Glow, I think there's going to be a lot of people interested in, first of all, finding out that there's a possibility that it goes away. I think we don't want to get to the point where it just goes away and see what happens. I think if we can nip that in the bud early, we may find the diehards who are like, yeah, I'm willing to put some time in to make sure this continues to go forward. But I think a lot of people probably don't even know what's involved in making it happen currently.
Okay, back to Councilmember Ball, I think.
Well, yeah, just kind of following up on what Annie and, excuse me, Councilmember Spencer just said. I didn't really know that Winter Glow was kind of falling apart. And if your board, the Winter Glow board, needs something decided sooner than later, maybe we should try to expedite a town hall just regarding that topic and see what kind of people we can recruit, what their thoughts are. And yeah.
Councilmember Kurtz had her hand back up.
I think one of the things we need to really focus on too is picking a good night, because I think when we did the last town, there was something big. Yes. It was, and there was a debate. That's what it was.
But we scheduled ours first.
Well, yeah. So I think being sensitive to the things that the community is actually doing so that they feel like they want to engage in this versus something else that was important as well. And then making sure that if we do go forward with this in some sort of short fashion, that we are also inviting the businesses and saying that there's sponsorship opportunities and come learn about how you can contribute to Winter Glow and how you can contribute to keeping something going in your community, and making sure that we are like blasting it everywhere and advertising everywhere and spending, well, not a lot of money, but strategically spending money in places where people will get the word so that they will come and figure out how they can be a part of it, or they can hear from their neighbor, oh, did you go to that? How can I help? Because I do think that there's a lot of people in the community who love Winter Glow, and if they know it's somebody's got to do something, they would be the somebody.
And I guess to that, we would need some sort of way to collect their information, somebody to be accountable, somebody controlling that information, and how somebody can actually sign up to help in some way other than just getting interested too. So we'd have to kind of navigate that too.
Any other thoughts?
Summer, do you remember what time of the year we had the last one? Do you remember when
It was election. It was actually the election.
Yeah, September.
It was in September. Yeah.
And it was like the first week of school. There was a lot going on.
Yeah. Go ahead, Councilmember Van Orman.
Would there be a possibility of maybe scheduling this about the same time that we have our new restaurant open? Show off the fact that we've got what's happening at the golf course with the and basically showing what we have going. Not just Winter Glow, but we've got so much in this community that needs to be highlighted.
Well, I guess, question, I think we're shooting for June opening, but, A, how much time do we have with the Winter Grove Board to make a decision?
Right.
B, how fast can we get it scheduled and where we know we can get participants, there's multiple factors in this. So it would be great to do that and drive business to our new restaurant. The question is, I mean, well, crap, it's middle of April. I mean, is this something we could pull off before the end of May? And is that in time for Winter Glow? I don't know. Those are all questions that need to be answered. Mark, any thoughts before I move on to more comments?
But I don't think there's enough known about the restaurant at this point. They're not even through design review to commit to any intersection there.
Okay. So don't count on that
Right.
working out.
Maybe the second one.
Yes. Yeah, Councilmember Ball.
I think we need to do it before Memorial Day weekend, before people start camping. Then we'll never have a shot.
Well, again, that's 5 to 6 weeks away. I don't know if there's, again, that's an open question for me. How fast could we pull this off? I don't know.
Mark, what do you think?
But I don't know that I think we could pull off a town hall sometime before Memorial Day. The question is the subject matter solidified so that we can start getting everything arranged? If that answer is yes, I think we could pull it off. Then it just becomes a matter of making it known so people have enough interest to want to participate.
I think once again, the biggest challenge, we can put together physically a town hall meeting pretty quickly, and we already have a good mailing list to reach out to the people we want to come, not businesses, that's a separate matter, but households. The biggest issue will be to frame the questions in compelling ways. And that, because it involves all of us, sometimes is a little dicey and can't be hurried along.
We had maybe a comment. If you guys can pass the mic back to our Winter Glow folks.
I just want to say, as far as Winter Glow goes, I don't think we're in a panic to get rid of this stuff, because we have to move it out a ways. And also, one of the questions that came up for us was, we had like a limit of how long we could have our stuff there. So if everybody's okay with that, the city and Greenstone and blah, 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 that would be more of a hurry than us.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess in my mind, if the topic is going to be Winter Glow, I would foresee more of a presentation like we had, right? This is what's going on. These are the facts. And I don't know necessarily about deriving any questions ahead of time, but I would expect those to come from the public then at that point, not necessarily prescribing any. I've got multiple hands. We got Councilmember Kennedy, then Robin, and then Councilmember Kurtz.
I was just going to refer to it. I think it would be a good topic to do that, because people may be thinking their Christmas that'll be here soon enough on it. I think the benefit would be is that if we talk about the subject I like the idea of we keep the Winter Glow where it is, but also like the idea of expanding into the other parts of the city. You know, here some months ago, just threw up to Mark one day, we ought to consider the netting here that we have to put some lighting along that. I think the possibility that maybe we could look at doing in the near future is splitting up some of the decorations and putting them over on this side of the city. Now, my thought is this: I think if we approach that for a town hall, we can get more participation. Because I don't see people motivated who live on this side of the freeway, motivated to over there. But we can talk about, this is what we're envisioning. This is what we're envisioning over the next 12 months or next 24 months. This is, we'll have that. We can have this over here. You're going to be able to participate in this. The neighbors get involved. I think that will bring the people out on it.
I think, did we have Councilmember Kurtz next?
Yeah, I
forgot.
was thinking for the actual town hall itself, like you were saying, a presentation, some questions from the community, and then perhaps even the ability to kind of gain different groups of interest at the town hall. So maybe we have the table set up. I guess I don't know how many people are going to come. But a different area for people who are interested in developing sponsors, and a different area for people who are interested in gathering volunteers from whence. And those that are interested in expanding and figuring out where to put it. And then somebody that's communicating with the city staff, because they would be the key people to have as a part of that. But I think that would be a place to get some information out and then recruit people right there to start doing the work. That'd be my thought.
Can I interject?
Absolutely.
I want to revise my previous answer. I think if the topic is this Winter Glow, Winter Fest expansion potential, I think it has to be before Memorial Day, because otherwise we don't have enough time to do anything. Or we would run into a serious time crunch with potentially bringing in volunteers, bringing in potential seasonal or full-time employees, getting them up to speed in time to get everything built out. So it would have to be before Memorial Day.
Memorial Day is the 26th, but then school doesn't get out for a couple more weeks after that. So I don't know if it'd be possible the week, might be able to do the week after because it's still late May. Maybe we can look at that. No, good points. Okay, so now what
So-
next, Robin?
So I've heard a lot, or we have, and surrounding with the Winter Glow. And we looking, I think if we have too many items that we have the town hall, it may get a little bit mashed together slightly, and we may not get as much good interaction. Or does that make, but if we, like, when you look at short-term, long-term for Winter Glow, we looking for like short-term, trying to get us through this year, hopefully, and then long-term. And then maybe we start looking at that possibly for an outline at a town hall. This is just an option. So that we can see, there might be other meetings town hall meetings that may need to be required, so that it doesn't maybe get too diverted off of what the purpose is for Winter Glow. But that's just a thought.
Councilmember Ball, I saw your hand up. Oh, I thought it looked like you were trying to make, okay. All right. Hold on, I lost my visual on Councilmember Spencer. I don't want to leave him out. Okay. Oh, now there his hand went up. There you go. Good timing.
Thanks, Mayor. One question I do have, and again, I don't want to get off into the weeds too much, but I know the conversation earlier regarding the facility that we were planning on building to store the Winter Glow. Do we know what kind of time frame we need to actually do that? If we decide, yes, we're going to own it and we're going to house it, do we know what kind of deadlines we're going to need to have that done either prior to Winter Glow, or so that we can throw it all in there after it's over?
Well, Ben jumped up and he was so excited to answer the question.
So there's a lot, it depends question. So I would say it would probably, if we had an answer, it's the Memorial Day. Probably if we knew by then, we could get it. It's not a very complex building. Obviously the market will bear some of that, schedule and things like that. But I'd say if we had an answer by Memorial Day, we could get it built by the end of the year.
So then when we take it down, it could go back into the new building. Gotcha. Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. Ben, didn't we run into an issue when we talked about that building before? So we were not getting bids, and we had one bid.
So we had a few bids. They had a very large range. So I think the highest bid was $750,000.
Right.
The lowest bid was a little under 300. So one of the things that we were going to plan on doing this year, as soon as we get an answer on if we want to actually build it, is to hone that, put out a better RFQ. So we get better bids, because that was just such a wide range. And I think it was because we were kind of in a hurry and the specifications were rather vague.
I think that's a huge part of our decision moving forward. Is it what does it cost? Where is the money coming from? Or what it's going to be totally utilized for?
Yeah, we think that the budget line, I don't think it's 300,000 in the 2025 budget. That's probably appropriate. But we'll definitely have to, I think we had some bidders that took some creative license with their bid last year, we'll say. So we did not need a $750,000 storage shed.
Or they really just didn't want the job and we're hoping. Yep. Okay. All right. So where do we go from here?
So I just, quickly on that note, I guess it's, is do some of us want to work together after this to finalize some of these questions and overall kind of plan here? And on top of that, I think we really need to know, is the purpose of this town hall meeting to get just community input in general, to influence the council's decision to go ahead with something, to say, no, we don't want it? Just kind of what are we looking at trying to accomplish there specifically? And then also, what's our action plan for who wants to get together to finalize these dates and the specific questions? And
Well, it
sort of-
sounds to me like I said, we don't want to muddy the waters too much, but get the sentiment from the community on, oh, hell no, you're not, excuse me, heck no, you're not getting rid of Winter Glow. Or, I don't expect the answer to be, we don't care. I think this community loves and supports it so much. They will come out and show that support. But then, I love the idea of, okay, here's a situation. This is where we're going to need help for this short-term period, like Robin was talking about. This is what we need this year. We need you guys to step up, get creative, and get some volunteers right then to take some of those action items to, be in charge of getting X, Y, and Z. And with some guidance, of course, and involvement from the board as they see fit, going forward. Did I summarize that pretty good, you guys? I don't know. Okay. And my brain's fading.
I think as far as timing goes, I think the consensus is Winter Glow before Memorial Day.
And we'll have to take a good look at the school calendar and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because there's gonna be a lot of end-of-year programs coming.
Thank you. Yeah.
At all ages.
Yes. And I was just kind of thinking like if you guys, are you guys, anybody 80s kids, like Save the Clock Tower? Does that ring a bell for anybody?
Sure.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Something, Save the Clock Tower,
Oh.
Back to the Future.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Something that would capture people's attention.
Okay. All right, so when's your next meeting? Remind me.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay, at 6. Okay, I think I might be able to pop over, maybe a couple minutes late. If there's anybody else who wants to sit in the reverse roles tomorrow at 6, welcome. We can maybe pick each other's brains. I know it might not go with the full agenda that you guys already have, but.
No, it is.
Oh,
on the
it is,
agenda.
okay.
Yeah.
Super.
Great. And thanks. Again, some of us are still trying to figure out, when you're trying to figure out what dates are, we're really relying on city staff to do a lot of that work. So as much as we might have some input as to, that's definitely, we want to catch people before this or not on that
Right.
date. We're not totally sitting down and locking it down, and we're trying to kind of play the same role you are too on this side. So anyway, thanks. Anyone else got anything else?
All right, great. Thanks, everybody.
See you
for your
tomorrow if
hard
you
work.
can. Thanks.
Will there be Girl Scout cookies?
Yeah. There will be.
Oh.
All right, moving on. Farmers market discussion. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll let you roll. with
Sure,
that.
I'll be real quick with this. Obviously, several years ago, we discussed whether elected officials should be able to participate in the farmers market during the election season. We didn't adopt an official policy per se, but the council did decide that only those running unopposed should participate. And obviously, there was a history to all of this. There were numerous complaints about campaigning in the booth, and that hope, when we discussed that, was that in the future, we wouldn't have any campaigning going on in the booth. That was the whole theory behind, let's just make it to where those who are running unopposed would be able to participate. But unfortunately, I don't know that happened. I continue to receive complaints about people talking or campaigning in one way or another in the particular booth. And so as a result of that, and the fact that I believe we should continuously review the policies that we're adopting to make sure that they're making sense, I wanted to bring this back up to the council before we get into the middle of election season and before we get into farmers market season, which, as we know, starts on May 17th, I think it was.
Yeah.
So that is why I requested it be put on the agenda. I know we were talking about whether we were going to do it tonight or on May 6th. But again, we've got essentially election season starts that week. So I didn't think it was necessarily appropriate for us to be discussing it in the middle of that. And this is our last meeting before all of that happens. So with that, I will just open it up. But I do think that we should have a discussion about what our policy is going to be going forward, and if we are going to put it in stone, whether it be via the governance manual or whatever else, to make sure that we're having that discussion. Thank you.
Councilmember Van Orman.
One of the reasons for me seconding it was to make sure that it is adequately covered too.
Yeah.
So we have a schedule going, and perhaps all of our council members can pick 3 throughout the summer, and then supplement it with all the other commissions that we have. But yeah, I think we've got 3 up this year for election. And yeah, I think it's important that we're not doing campaigning. And I think we've done that with everyone, including the school board.
Yeah, that we included them in that
Mhm.
policy.
Yep.
Yep.
So I have no problem solidifying it.
Yeah,
Um,
so the motion on May 16th of 23 was to allow anyone with an unopposed election to man the booth with signage about not campaigning, basically was the gist of it. And that's what was decided on 2 years ago. Councilmember Kennedy.
I obviously had a challenge with that as I do now. We've gone 18, 19 years with not having an issue. And suddenly it happened, but it was a one-time thing, and there was extenuating circumstances that how that happened. That we closed that booth down and created the challenge that we still trickle with now. But I look at this as the 8 of us are elected individuals, representative of the citizens. We have a fiduciary responsibility to do what we can to be in positions to answer those questions. And the farmer's market was very, very good about that. For years and years and years, there was only 4 people that showed up at farmer's market. Chris, me, Peterson, and Shane. Okay, we had no committees showing up. We had no employees showing up, and it worked very well because we watched each other that we didn't get the campaigning. And it was very, very effective on it. So suddenly we get into a situation that, well, if you're running for office, you shouldn't be there. Well, if that's the case, then we have to also look at maybe they shouldn't be, if we're going to have something over at Trailhead. Or is there a possibility they're going to be campaigning? Let's assume we're all adults here and we have to be responsible to what we swore to on it. The challenge that unfortunately evolved, as I share with Councilman Cargill, complaints that I start hearing a great amount of is that, especially during the library process, when elections are going on, that there were individuals in there campaigning for who they wanted to see elected. And that is wrong. So how do you monitor something like that? It's very, very difficult. So to try to say that because somebody is running, they have to be elected official, that they can't be there, to me, it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we've got Councilmember Spencer, and then we'll go to Councilmember Kurtz.
Thank you, Mayor. I recall when we had the discussion previously, that the summer prior, I feel like it was mostly the mayor, Tom, and I who were the ones kind of showing up, at least from the mayor and council. And I think part of the question became, is this a regular and usual responsibility that we have? And at least from my perspective at the time was yes, because I wasn't there every week, but I showed up enough times that previous summer to say, yeah, that is something that I, did as part of my regular responsibilities. And so I was one of the few that voted, voted against limiting it to, the extenuating circumstances that, if you were running, but you were running unopposed, or if you weren't running that particular election, that to me it doesn't really make any difference to Councilman Kennedy's point. I think it really just boils down to, are we gonna behave like adults, and are we gonna agree to not campaign just like we wouldn't campaign around the dais on a regular city council Tuesday night, right? I mean, we have certain responsibilities as elected officials, and I don't think it has really anything to do with whether we're at the farmer's market or not. I feel like if that's something that's part of our usual and regular duties, that we should be allowed to be there regardless of whether we're running for election or not.
Thank you. Who was Councilmember Dunn, then Councilmember Kurtz?
If you're on a ballot and you have an opponent, you're not in the booth.
And Councilmember Kurtz?
So I mean, the topic is timely, but literally nothing has changed since the last time we made this decision. The only thing that has changed is potentially who's on the ballot. And so I do have concern about why we would change if nothing has changed, because I think that then, in my mind, in my opinion, leads more to a conflict of interest. To say literally nothing has changed since the first time I did this. I think that the other concern that I have is that we all have the ability to do a PDC complaint. We all have the ability to do an ethics complaint. And the people that were in the booth that day didn't do it, which is why we made a rule. And so to make a rule because someone didn't want to do what they took an oath to do at the time seemed a little silly. But we have consistently done this over the last 2 election cycles. And I think to do something different when nothing has changed other than potentially who's on the ballot this time, that's the part that doesn't make sense to me. I would hope that the people that are in the booth are not campaigning. But I think the one way to have us all feel assured that that is not happening and doesn't put us in an awkward situation where we have to do an ethics complaint or a PDC complaint or ponder those things about someone that we sit with every other week is to just simply disallow it. And I think the other part of that too was just that regarding who shows up. We did the sign-up sheet last year, and I think that if we give that to the people that maybe have, I'm not around a lot in the summer, and so I have some limited weekends that I can do that. If I can get a look at it before people who are there more consistently, I can sign up for more. But by the time I got it last year, there were a lot of places that I could have signed up for that were already taken. So I think if we can figure out and make sure, like you're saying, that we have it staffed, because I think that's important. And I think it's really good for us to be out there. But I would support leaving our quasi policy the same.
And just a reminder, I pulled the minutes just to refresh my memory because I couldn't remember who was on, who wasn't, all that stuff. So in May 23, when this last vote was on, it passed 5-2 with Mayor Pro Tem and former Mayor Pro Tem Follier opposed to the proposal, and those who voted in favor of it were Councilmembers Kurtz, Van Orman, Dunn, Sahlberg, and Spencer. So we've got that. Go ahead. Mayor
So
Pro Tem.
a couple of things. I agree with Councilmember Kurtz that nothing has changed. And that's the point. There are still circumstances in which I'm not talking about necessarily members of this body, but other folks who are manning the booth are still, you might not want to say campaigning, but they're still speaking in favor of certain things and certain people. And that's the problem that I have. Part of the reason in 2.5 years ago that I voted opposed was because at that time, and if you go back and check the minutes, I said I didn't think anybody who's on the ballot should be able to participate. And I remained consistent on that until, again, I continued to get complaints from people. Oh, they were talking about this or they were talking about that. And again, I'm not talking about people on this dais. I'm talking about others as well. The issue to me is that, as far as the whole conflict of interest, when we voted on this the last time, 6 of the 7 council members were up for election that year. 6 of the 7. And there was no talk about, well, is this a conflict of interest for those people to be able to vote? No, they weren't. No one said that. We all, again, respected the wishes of our fellow council members. And it's really difficult to file a PDC complaint or an ethics complaint against someone who's not an elected official in that booth. I mean, you can't do it. So I think that's the challenge that I'm running into. Not that I don't trust any of the people around this dais. It's just, we put this policy in place for the purpose of trying to prevent a certain thing from happening, and that thing is still happening. So that's my issue.
Councilmember Kurtz, and note, we've got 6 minutes till the meeting extension is over.
I'll make a motion to extend the meeting to 9:45.
We have a second?
Second.
Motion's first, motion and second. All in favor of extending the meeting to 9:45, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're at 9:45.
So, Mayor Pro Tem, what I think I just heard you say is that you're not concerned about anybody here campaigning. That's not what the issue has been recently. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, that's my issue now.
That's your issue now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so do we have a motion? Do we have where are we? Oh,
We're still in discussion.
well, nobody was raising their hand. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. We have to relate back that how do we get here? Now, somebody can sit here and say, well, if there was a violation, we could have given a PDC fine or something like that. That was talked about at the time among this group. And what was talked about is that, no, that's something we handle within ourselves. We don't have to run to make a PDC complaint or something like that. This is what happened. The decision was that campaigning went on during that period of time. It was very obvious. There was other circumstances in which we really can't get into in this meeting. Correct, Mr. Attorney? Preferably not.
Point of just, I don't even know what point it is. Whose phone is going off? Is it somebody?
I'm not
There's a
hearing it.
dinging.
I hear it.
Ding.
Oh, now mine did go.
Ding.
Oh, no.
Gonna say, it's certainly not ours.
Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you,
That's
but I'm
quite
like, I
right.
want to listen and I'm like hearing this ding.
I was hearing it. I thought it was Mark's.
Go ahead.
So to go back to the thing is that, well, if something happened, somebody should have filed a complaint. So if they didn't, then it's no big deal. Out of respect, we didn't do that. We tried to fix it within this organization on it. I just have a real challenge that elected officials, all 8 of us, we take an oath to abide by those laws and regulations. If we screw up, then fine, we screw up and let's move on. But to suddenly go back and say, well, hold it, why did this happen? Or let's ignore why this happened. That was what bothers me. That's what bothers me, because 3 of the individuals who are in this room right now, we voted at that time to close the booth down because we had to stop what was going on. That's how we're sitting here today, is that suddenly, because campaigning went on in that booth, now it says that we can't let any council member in there if they're running again. And everybody's being penalized. Why? Because of one individual who chose not to abide by that. That's my issue.
Councilmember Van Orman, then Kurtz.
I'm just gonna say this once. Isn't our purpose as city council members to go ahead and engage with the public? We should be adult enough not to go ahead and do politics in the booth. Put the sign up, get ourselves signed up for the thing, spread it out so not one person has a burden, and let's have an amazing time engaging with our public. That's my 2 cents.
Hey, Councilmember Kurtz.
Mayor Pro Tem, when you started talking, somewhere in the conversation, you talked about at the time your position was to not allow anyone who's on the ballot in the booth. Is that kind of still where you're thinking, or were you looking at doing something different?
Well, that was my thinking at the time. But again, my whole point in doing that was to try to stop what was happening at the time. no matter, I don't think if we even would have adopted that policy at that time, would have addressed the issue that I'm bringing up here, and that is that there are others who are doing it on behalf of all of us on the council. And so my theory here, and maybe it's a broken theory, is that if we just allow all council members to be there, that maybe that will prevent the future discussion. We all know the rules, others don't know the rules. So that's why I've kind of switched my thinking on that.
Okay. Are there any more comments? I'm not seeing any. So where are we? Is there somebody who's going to make a motion, or are we leaving it? You guys looking at leaving it where it is?
Maybe we should think about it.
Okay, I mean.
And
if
come
we're-
back on May 6th.
Okay,
Yeah.
Let's move on.
okay.
I make a motion.
I
I make a motion that we allow somebody as an elected official, if they're running, they have the ability to be in that booth.
We have a second?
Because it's just not the booth, it's anywhere where the city property is.
We have a second?
Could he repeat his motion, please? I couldn't
Yeah, the
hear.
motion is to allow any city council member at the booth, even if they have an active unopposed election. I mean, active opposed election, which is different than what it was 2 years ago. Councilmember Van Orman, I think you seconded it.
I seconded it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Not hearing any, so I'll go ahead and take a vote on this motion. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Hey, I've got we got 4. Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right, motion passes 4-3. All right, moving on. Let's blow through these as fast as we can. I feel so bad that you've had to sit through this whole thing, Lee. And you're gonna be part of the Community Engagement Commission, so hopefully that was good.
Mayor will make a motion to approve general business consent agenda items A, C, D, E, and F.
Second, anybody?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Spencer. Those in favor of approving the consent agenda items A, C, D, E, and F, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Mayor will make a motion to
What?
approve
Hold on,
general
hold on,
business.
Hold on.
I had amended it in the beginning because I wanted.
We
to-
didn't include B.
We
You
didn't
asked to
include
move
B.
it.
Yeah,
You asked to move it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Yep.
apologize.
Mayor will make a motion to approve general business item 10B, the April 15th, 2025 vouchers.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay, and then we'll have a discussion. Councilmember Ball, what was your question?
Okay, well, I would like to know a little bit more about the EFT Opportunity Industries, $20,444 for floodlights, electrical outlets, circuit installation. I assume this is all for PD, and it seems like a lot of money for lights.
I'm assuming, what's the voucher number?
1801.
We'll pull it up.
I think it was somewhere in the $4,000.
Ah, I think
$20,444.
it would have been something that was already approved by council and signed the
Yeah, I
contract on.
can't speak to the 20,000. So currently before we installed this, we had no exterior lighting outside. We had some lights on the building, but nothing that kind of shone into the yard. And this was approved by council, I don't know, a few months ago, I don't know the exact date. But this basically allows us to operate at night, especially when we're doing snow plowing or loading salt, things like that. So it basically illuminates the yard so that we can operate safely during really snow removal operations.
Okay, and then I have another one on page 50, advanced traffic products. Let's see.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that was, that's actually in the CFP update. So that is for the update of the signal at Moulter and Appleway. So we purchased those products. The county is going to be installing them. They gave us a list of things. I think it comes out to 40,000 or something.
Again, something that was already approved by council.
Yep, it's part of the CFP. So this is the materials for that, to complete that item. We also have a bill or a estimate from the county to perform the labor on that particular item. That'll be occurring here within the next 6 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay, and if there's no other questions, those in favor of approving general business consent agenda B, vouchers, mouse on here, April 15th, 2025 vouchers, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0.
Mayor will make a motion to approve general business item 11A,
Yep.
the appointment of Leah Stussy, I'm sorry. I knew whichever one I had said was going to be wrong, to the Community Engagement Commission.
Second.
Yeah, motion is second. If you can join us real quickly, I know we're running short on time. If you want to give us a quick intro, and I will say that we met at the town hall.
Yep.
So we do attract new people, and now she wants to be, and actually it's been a while since you applied. We were looking because, so Leah owns a business in Liberty Lake, took over Scott.
Scott Draper's Edward Jones office
Yes.
in the portal.
Yeah, and lives just outside the city limits,
Like
but
a
she
block.
still qualifies for the Community Engagement Commission. So let you do a quick intro.
My name is Leah Stussy. I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones Investments in the portal. Took over Scott Draper's office, moved here Labor Day weekend. And so the town hall was actually one of my first things that I attended here in Liberty Lake to get to know the community. Was looking for a way to get involved, meet people, make friends. Met Summer and Cynthia and thought they were pretty cool. And they're like, hey, you should fill out this application. So I did. Since then, I've joined Rotary Club. I'm co-chair for the upcoming Memorial Day weekend stuff, including the pancake. Sorry, my allergies. The pancake breakfast. So I've got that coming up. I moved here from Ephrata, Washington, so Central Washington. Lifelong Washingtonian, Eastern Washingtonian. Married, 2 kids that are in Green Acres Middle School and Liberty Lake Elementary. And really just excited to be part of the community. Volunteerism is super important to me and my family. My husband's been a volunteer firefighter for almost 22 years, recently joined Newman Lake Fire Department. I used to also be involved with the Ephrata Fire Department, not in firefighting, but more in like community outreach, community events, touch a truck, food drives, all that sort of stuff. So looking to contribute to my community and help make events and just a better place to live and be involved and engaged.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? No.
Welcome.
I'm not seeing it. All right. So those in
Thank you.
favor of approving the appointment, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Welcome to community engagement. We'll see you tomorrow. All right. We are down to, all right, 9:36. What? Council comments? Anybody? All right, we'll move past that. No public hearings or appeals. We have 2 or 3 resolutions. I will turn that over to Rochelle.
Amending the city council rules of procedure.
Okay. Any discussion on this? The red lines were in there. This is the meeting time, right?
That's it.
Yep. Does anybody have any questions or anything on it? All right, do we have any, oh, go ahead.
I have a comment. I think I caught a typo in that. 2.1, the council shall meet regularly on the first and third Thursdays or Tuesdays, blah, blah, blah. It's at 6 and ending at, and both 10 and 9 are crossed out.
We'll catch that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's 9?
It should be 9. It's just struck out by error.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
I actually have 2 comments. As it said on it, we're actually looking at reading this, we're just voting on or looking at changing the 6 o'clock meeting. But when you look at the proposal, it's mentioned in here about rules of procedure. The city shall be governed by the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order, copy of which is maintained. We've all had in the past also changed recently that we use that as a reference. I'm sorry. We use it, thank you. We use it as a reference. And where that came from is when we had Ann McFarland, who was the expert at this. She was the one who said that and recommended, do not adopt, do not say that we abide by all of the rules of the Robert's Rules. Because I remember very vividly, she said, if you do, you will never get a meeting done. So we changed it to say reference. I think it was reference.
What are you reading there? It should still be that way. It's not been, is it saying shall of some kind?
It says For decision, okay, the city shall be governed by the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order, a copy of which is maintained in the office of Liberty Lake. That sounds pretty permanent to me.
Is that in the resolution?
Yes.
It's not a
If-
change, but.
Yeah, if you, in the rules, though, it makes reference to that as a reference. And I think the intent in the resolution was from the standpoint of it's governed by rules, but the rules of procedure will, if there's a conflict, you'll use the rules of procedure. If there's nothing that's said in the rules of procedures, then you will use Robert's rules.
Then the verbiage has to be more clarified here.
No, I don't, I think in the actual rules themselves, you're reading from the resolution, right?
Yes.
Right, and so if you get to the actual rules themselves, so the attachment that goes to the resolution, it discusses that Robert's rules are not adopted. They're used as a reference
Okay, very
to
good.
supplement the rules of procedure.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, it's specifically, and you're talking about resolving a point of order. It's not talking about the whole rule, so.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, we allow citizen comment. So if there's any citizen comment here or online on resolution 12-156G, please speak now or forever hold your peace. Yeah. Did we? No, we
there's
haven't.
not a-
No, but I'll go ahead and if there's any. So it doesn't sound like there's any citizen comments. So now do we have a motion in a second? Anybody gonna make a motion?
Move resolution number 12-156G.
Okay, great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kennedy. All right, any further discussion? Right, not hearing any. Those in favor of approving resolution 12-156G, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Motion passes 6-1. All right, next.
Resolution number 25-274, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, Spokane County, Washington, approving an amended and restated community revitalization, financing, and tax increment area agreements,
Okay, I know
and
this is-
providing for other matters properly relating thereto.
Sorry, I thought you were done, Michelle, my fault. So this is a little bit meatier one. Kyle's probably gonna want to talk about it a little bit. We are 4 minutes from our meeting expiration.
I have nothing to add. I'm just here for questions.
Okay.
We discussed this at our workshop. at the
Got it.
last meeting.
Motion to extend the meeting to 10 o'clock.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of extending the meeting to 10 PM, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, 10 PM it is. All right, does anybody have any questions for Kyle? All right.
Mayor, I'll move resolution number 25-274.
We have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Van Orman. All right, as I said before, we do take public comment on resolutions. So if there's any public comment here or online for resolution 25-274, please let us know. Nobody online? All right, all those in favor of approving resolution 25-274, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? My motion passes 7-0.
Resolution number 12-164H, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Liberty Lake, Spokane County, Washington, approving certain public improvements and public improvement costs and providing for other matters properly related thereto.
Yeah. Anything on this one? Any questions? All
No, just this is our 3-year rolling project update for Tiff Inlet.
right.
I move resolution number 12-164H.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comment, any questions? Doesn't look like any. All right, so again, we're up to public comment on resolution 12-164H. Everybody in chambers is either staff or from the press. Do we have anybody online? Okay, not hearing any. Those in favor of approving resolutions 12-164H, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We are on to ordinances.
Second read, ordinance number 308B, an ordinance amending ordinance number 308 passed by the City Council on December 17th, 2024, entitled An Ordinance of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, adopting a budget for the period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025, appropriating funds and establishing salary schedules for established positions.
Okay, second read, so you guys went through the first read and discussion. Any further questions for Kyle? All All right, we have a motion.
I move ordinance number 308B.
Okay, do I have a
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Again, public comment on the ordinance. Nobody else, nobody in chambers, it doesn't look like. Is there anybody online who'd like to comment on 308B? Nope, not seeing any. Those in favor of approving ordinance number 308B, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, not hearing any. Ordinance passes 7-0. And we have a first read.
First read, ordinance number 310, an ordinance establishing a capital investment advisory board, defining its purpose, membership, duties, and procedures, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. All right, so at first read, we had the presentation, so we'll hear the second read at the next meeting. Go. Okay. Okay. Okay,
Yes.
all right, yes, okay. Sorry, it's getting really quiet. We don't have any emergency ordinances, introduction of upcoming agenda items. You guys should have your list. We will, we cross off farmers market participation. We already did that. We've got commission appointment, process, economic development strategy, is what we have so far for May 6th. You never know what happens in the next 2 weeks. And then we have some after that. Is there anything that we need to be adding to this for the future that we're missing? Save for those things are already, we already know that are coming. Go ahead, Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem.
2 questions. One, do we want to add Winter Glow back onto May 6th? For the purposes of continuing that discussion? I don't know the answer. I don't need any more information, but I'm sure maybe Mark, you guys might have something new 3 weeks from now that you want to tell us about, or?
Potentially. I mean, we can put it on there as a tentative, and if it firms up, we can take off the tentative.
Okay.
For sure.
And if it's a short update, maybe we can add it in your report.
Absolutely.
And then did we, I can't remember exactly what the next step was on the secondhand smoke situation. And I thought we were talking about trying to come back with something that didn't put it into one, but maybe into another.
So what we had agreed to do was to start some conversations with HOAs about some potential treatments that could be considered a possibility, while also bringing back information on what it would look like to make it a civil infraction. We didn't set a date certain because we weren't sure what the conversation with the HOAs was going to look like, but we can add that to some downstream date if we'd like to do that, and at least talk about the civil infraction portion.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead, Councilmember.
Who's liaising with the HOAs? Because I've talked to the president of my HOA and they were just, she was kind of like, didn't really want to get involved in that.
Yeah, so that would be some members of city staff. I don't know exactly who that's going to be. We're going to have to figure out the game plan.
They have not done so yet.
Not with all of them. We've had some preliminary conversations to find out, what maybe some ground rules would be to have a conversation, but we've not talked to every single HOA.
Okay. Anybody else have any? Let's going forward. Okay, we will continue to scrub that as we go. One more chance for citizen comments. Nobody in chambers doesn't look like. Do we have anybody online for any further citizen comments? The staff. All right. No executive session, so there's no more business in front of the council tonight. We will adjourn. Thanks, everybody.